Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the finale. That's right, it's the last round of the season, round 13 of this year's ASR Development Series Championship. 13 rounds in the season, 13 unlucky for some and lucky for others. And, well, if you're a little bit superstitious, you wouldn't want to be racing around this place. It's the Concrete Canyon that is the Adelaide Parklands circuit, and it's a 125 kilometre slog tonight for the Development Series field. That equates to 39 laps, and whether or not you can get it undertaken risk-free and pain-free or not remains to be seen. Turn 8 is very, very inviting. There's curbs at the centre chicane that can roll the car over onto its lid very, very easily. And there's mistakes that can be just waiting around a blind corner for you, and then all it takes is to end your session in the concrete barrier. So trepidation is the name of the game, and with a very smaller than usual field here tonight, it is my pleasure to welcome for the final time this year Will Devonish alongside me for this one. Will, this is one that's been on the calendar pretty much every year since ASR's inception, in a couple of different various forms or another. That's raced the longer version and the shorter version of the circuit as the modern day equivalent, but I guess it's one that drivers are very, very familiar with, and that means there's no room for any excuses, is there?
Yeah, it's a driver's favourite track. It comes with the game, so I think everyone disproportionately puts more laps in here than anywhere else. And fun fact, it was the first supercar race we had was at Adelaide, so back to where it all began.
That's right. I think in that year, in 2018, it was the first one was around this circuit, and then it ended the year around the longer 1988 circuit, which of course is the old Formula One circuit from when it was run around here in the day. There's a lot to play out tonight. There's two championships that are both mathematically still in play. It is a bit of a tall order for those in second place in both of those standings, because the leaders in the respective championships effectively have one hand and three fingers on the championship trophy. And while it's not it's mathematically possible that it could change hands, it is going to take a rather tall order for that to happen in both the championships tonight. So, with I guess without any further ado, it probably means that we should start to take a little bit of a look at the championship picture in both cases as to how everything stands coming into this evening. So we'll start with the one that's a little bit, I guess, a little bit easier to understand, and that's Super 3. So that is the older spec car of the future machines, so the Nissans, the VFs and the FGs. And, well, for most of the year, Will, it's been Matt Cecil with not so much stellar performances in qualifying, but more in the race than anything else. He's had quite a knack for keeping his nose clean and out of trouble. When everybody else around them loses their heads, he seems to keep his well, and he ends up, finishing a good 3 or 4 positions higher than the next challenger in Super 3. So that's why that buffer has built up so well over such a period of time. And on top of that, he's had some remarkably good finishes inside the top 10 this year. So it's all sort of fallen into his lap, and that's why he's got the better part of almost 280 points or something on roadie.
Yeah, it's all those top 10s that have really helped him get to the front. And as you said, some standout performances early on. He only got onto the podium at Hamilton outright. And then a few more pretty close to the front end of the field. And we've mentioned it a few times, he's taking up real life driving. It's I believe it's a XL, and that's translating into actual sim racing driving. And as you said, it's his racecraft is what brings it out. He's not a top qualifier, but when he can put his head down and actually get a few laps under him, he can just churn out the numbers, which is what you need.
That's exactly right. So in terms of the Super 3 standings, I wouldn't say, as we said, it's 300 points for a win on the night in terms of, the way the point structure is first through to, 32nd in the points. So it would take a minor miracle. It would basically take Rhodey to win the night, to finish first in a combined field. And for Matt pretty much not to be here for it to change hands. So reality is this one's probably the easier of the two championships to work out, just given the pace numbers that a lot of the Super 2 runners are putting out at the moment. It's very much a difficult thing for that to happen. Rhodey has got to be very careful though, because if he puts a foot wrong tonight and he doesn't finish, then Adam Kerrison is only, better part of 100 points back. But if he has a solid result tonight, potentially looking at, maybe a top 10 or top 12 sort of finish with Rhodey not finishing the race, positions 2 and 3 could potentially swap tonight. But as it sits right now, the top 3 are very close to being locked into their final finishing positions. Positions 4 and 5, Glenn Miles and Michael McDonald, that's very much up for grabs tonight. They're both here. So expecting to see a good performance from both of them tonight to try and shore up P4 and P5 in the championship. The only other one on that screen that I'm seeing in the server at the moment is Angus Wells down there in 9th. So if he can maybe put together a decent result, he might be able to move himself up to potentially 8th in the championship picture at the end of the season. I think maybe the likes of Melody and Mark, who are not here tonight, that's probably a little bit of a step too far, do you think?
Yeah, look, we had a practice race last night. Angus was struggling a bit. I think he was having some hardware issues, but you never know if he's fixed them tonight. And he can keep on sort of Rhodey's tail, that will bank him some points.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, so he's just got to keep in sort of in step here with everybody and see how everything goes. It is, of course, a single race round tonight, so that's something to bear in mind. Right, over the page we go. Let's have a look at the Super 2 standings, because while this one is a little bit closer than Super 3, it's not by much. It's 250 points, or better part of 250 points from Spec to Dostal in terms of second playing first. Now, the math is pretty simple, I guess, in this case. Luke Spec needs to win and hope Dostal doesn't finish the race. And if that's the case, then that will mean he'll overtake and be in the box seat, will win the championship. But again, as it sits right now, this one's a case of Dostal with one hand and three fingers pretty much on that trophy. He just needs to circulate tonight. He doesn't need to take any undue risks. He just needs to finish. That's pure and simple. Doesn't matter where you finish the race. If you're Brandon Dostal, you win the title.
Yeah, like we've seen this year, like Dostal's got that raw speed. He's got some natural ability behind the wheel. He's yet to sort of develop the conservative driving matter that you need for this top position. So, yeah, tonight if he's starting to get swamped, I worry that you never know, blow an engine and he's all championships out the door. So if he can keep his head on his shoulders tonight, yeah, it'll be in the bag for him.
That's absolutely right. So let's keep running down the order here. So Ethan Knight, Ryan Smith, that's very much up for grabs, those two. That's not settled for P3 and P4. That's probably the closest of the ones of the drivers who are here tonight, because the two behind them, unfortunately, are not. Darryl Callaghan sitting this one out. Steve Burko out for the balance of the end of the season with hardware failure. So a couple of drivers that are not going to be taking part there. So the interesting bit will more so be the attention on third and fourth in the championship, because Ryan's had a super red hot run of form as of late. I mean, we'll rattle off what sort of his results are just over the course of the last 5 races, right across the last 3 rounds. Won the Sandown 125, he won Bathurst the 125, and then at Taupo he went first, third and second. So 3 wins and 2 other positions on the podium in 5 races. He is the red hot form man coming into tonight, and has been on an absolute tear. He's outscored everybody in the last 5 races. So he's got all that momentum compared to Ethan Knight with a 5th, a 3rd, a 13th, a 1st and a 6th, though not the consistency that he wants. So if history is anything to go by, the 2 longer distance races that he's already won, you would kind of almost want to pencil him in to make it 3 from 3 tonight, wouldn't you, Will?
Yeah, and I'd also mention Supercars 2 weeks ago. He actually managed to get a win at Taupo in the main game, which is not an easy effort. I've only gotten about 2 this year, and he was able to pip us all. And yeah, for a dev driver to step into Supercars and handle that sort of pressure, yeah, the sort of form he's showing is phenomenal.
That's right. So what we'll do is we'll leave that there for the moment, because we will come back and have a look at the second half of the driver standings in Super 2, in between the shootout and the warm-up session and the final race of the evening. Let's have a look at our track, because we're not too far away from going into qualifying. So it is, of course, I said it's a single mini enduro, 125 kilometres. Surprisingly, this is the only time this year where the race format in the development series differs to what the main game drivers will go through in the following week. So every year, or every track this year, it's been the same format, just the distances have been a little bit different. It's a single race tonight for the development series drivers of 39 laps. Next week, the main game drivers, it will be 2 lots of 32 laps. So again, a little bit different there. The only time it differs this year. Doesn't make the challenge any more difficult or any easier than what it actually is. 14 corners and just a little over 3.2 kilometres of racing. I guess this circuit is it's synonymous with the very, very difficult and very, very tricky turn 8.
Turn 8 and all the very hard walls around the circuit. As you mentioned earlier on tonight, got turn 1 and 2. You can take it really fast, but there is a needle head width. If you do it wrong, the car's on its head at turn 3. You have to be really careful around there. And yeah, then once you get to turn 8, it really invites you to go as fast as you really want to go. But yeah, if you do it wrong, you've slammed the car into the side of the wall and sort of ruined your whole race. And as we were saying, it's one shot tonight. There's no recovery.
That's absolutely right. One shot. Well, you get a chance to put yourself in the top 10, and then we of course have the top 10 shootout to come, last shootout for the year, as we are waiting for the green flag to be given for the session. Looks like the is that in the Paint Doctor machine that's at the front, which is the Daryl Callaghan machine. There's actually Cam Rutledge aboard that car tonight. I'm wondering if he's just tripped the timing beacon there. He's gone a little bit further forward than I think he ideally would have liked. And oh, here we go. Murrell's giving him a shove. So it's all happening now in terms of qualifying. Drivers are very much leaving the lane, pretty much line astern. I think the bulk of the field is pretty much getting ready to go out for this one. And I don't know about you, Will. I'm rather looking forward to this session tonight because already a few drivers have been talking a bit of smack.
Yeah. Now the reason they're all packed up in this qualifying session is the tyres actually take a good 3 laps to warm up. So it's pretty much a one-shot qualifying tonight. Even though we've got the 10 minutes, it really will end up being a one-shot qualifying.
It is the hard tyre, of course, tonight as well. That's the one thing drivers need to remember. Adelaide, for as long as I can remember, Will, has always been a hard tyre round.
Yeah, and actually...
Oh dear. And well, speaking of early goings here, Dostal, the champion in waiting, has already had a moment out on the circuit. That looks like it's down at turn 4, I would say. He was facing the wrong direction for a moment there. It's time for our first Paint Doctor replay of the night, I think.
This is pretty common coming out of the pits with cold brakes. You just got deep and he's done that.
Yeah, very lucky. So he didn't hit the wall, he just went down the escape road. So not an ideal start to the night though. He did have to loop and wait for a couple of cars to go through, but as you were, and off you go again.
It'll be interesting to see tonight. We've got the guys are going to have to do a pit stop, and if they don't remember the brakes cool down in the pit stop, we might see some cars off in turn 4 after the pit stop.
So there's only 2 cars not on the circuit. Glenn Miles, who traditionally elects to start from the back of the circuit, and the only other driver that's not out there is Alex Kiddis. He's actually going to be starting off the rear of the grid. He unfortunately fell foul of the stewards at Topor for an impeding infringement in qualifying. So it doesn't affect his ability to race, but it does mean that you do sit out qualifying as per the ASR rules.
That'll be a lot of fun for Kiddis. He's got a lot of pace, being able to get through the whole field. Well, not the whole field, but it's not actually too bad for him. It should be a fun night for him.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too bad for him. He was at the top of the timing tree during the practice session that concluded just before qualifying got underway, so definitely got some pace. Now, I think he was the only driver I saw at the time that was in the 1:19s. Whether or not I imagine that's going to be qualifying pace. It's clearly not probably race pace. If you're doing 19s in race pace, you're absolutely killing it.
Blitzing it, yeah. We've got Cam just about to cross the line with Murrell to get a time on the board with 51 flats. 21 flats, sorry.
21 flats for them, and for Darren Kemp, 21.7 for him. So still a lot of drivers yet to take, to make full use of it, ramping it up. A few drivers cutting the curb there at turn number 1 and 2 as well, which is going to be quite common. I think a few drivers have already worked out that it is quite a difficult sequence of corners to get right. You've got to make sure you get it right. Well, so Steve Warwick, you've had a cut somewhere around the lap, so he's actually got to go again, and that's probably a little bit of a better line.
The car looked really good there, nice and stable on exit.
Oh, Ethan Knight in the wall at down at that was at turn 4, I think, as well. So
but he exited out though.
Yeah, he did.
That's a horrid place to have a car stopped.
Well, he got out of there pretty quickly, and for him, he has set a time that was good enough for 8th, actually 21.1 for him. Nobody dipping into the 19s just yet. Murrell tucked in here behind one of the Paint Doctor entries, and he's a little, very wide, very close to getting the tyre barrier there. He's parked in behind Cam Rutledge. Anthony Green, I don't think will be too impressed being tucked in behind him after seeing him not only grab the wall at turn 8, but he also came very close to grabbing the wall at turn 11.
Very easy at turn 11, being up the chuck of someone. You just lose your braking markers and see what happens.
So at this stage of the moment, Ryan Smith fastest. He is just under.
Spec has just got it.
He's just I was about to say, just as the times were changing, he has actually been jumped. So Spec goes into the 1:19. So first man into the 19s in qualifying, and that's a good 10th and a little bit clear of the next fastest car on the circuit, which we were just saying was Ryan Smith. For a very brief moment, he was in the 1 minute 20s. He's now also jumped into the 1 minute 19s, 1 minute 19.9. Got to go with the hot hand that feeds you sometimes. And what we go to Ryan Smith now, he is 0.3 of a second up at the Sector 1 split. That's on his own marker compared to Luke Speck. So in comparison to Speck, he is only about 0.065 off. Oop, and grabbing the wall riding it a little bit on the way through turn 8. And
a bit of slipstream from this Bottle car in front of him might help him.
Yeah, he might get a bit of a slipstream from Brown here, who's got the eyes on for a faster lap. Now, he did lose a little bit of time in that middle sector, but overall he is on the best number that we have seen all session long. Now, of course, don't forget, this is just to get into the 10. There's still going to be the shootout to come, but you do want to sort of be towards the tail end of the top 10 because it gives you the best opportunity to set a lap time. Whereas we have seen a few things this year as Smith goes to the top. We have seen a few issues in the top 10 shootouts this year. Remember Bathurst, it was one of those shootouts where I think it was the second driver out. It might have actually been Darren Longman, I think, was one of the ones that was, everybody was waiting and he went out and then nobody could top his time and everybody struggled. So it is possible in the shootout that things can change and it makes people change places fairly quickly. This man at the moment is not in the shootout, but with that sector time there, he is very much on the money and will throw himself into the mix for to be one of the last spots out inside the top 10 shootout to come in a few minutes' time.
Yeah, that's properly fast first sector. To get into the 22s, it's very hard to get there, so properly fast. And he's really committed through turn 8 there. Wasn't
the fastest time we've seen through sector 1. That belongs to Luke Speck, 22.6. So for Dostal's a 22.900. So he's now gained an awful amount of time in that middle sector on his own personal best. This will be more than enough to vault him into the top 10. It'll be tracking like it's going to be a low 1 minute 20 at this point. It'll be enough for about 4th place. Or 5th place if he can muster it out of here. Jones and McDonald, they've also now gone into the 1 minute 19s as well. It's very tight at the top. Dostal now joins them in the 19s as well. So 5 drivers now with a 1 minute 19 on the board in a very tight top 5 cars. Have a look at that. At the moment, Ryan Smith has absolutely creamed them. He's dived into the 19.6s. Dostal to a 19.7, Speck a 19.8, Kai Jones a 19.8, Damon McDonald a 19.9.
Yeah, this is almost Supercars' main game, sort of qualifying how close these guys are.
Angus Brown as well. He's just starting another flying lap now, just ahead of Matt Cecil, and he's actually 6th, and he's just outside the 119s. He's 1 minute 20.2. He's actually just been jumped by Anthony Green, who's gone up to he's just in behind him there and shot with his eyes on as well, a 1 minute 20.1. So very tight between the middle of the pack as well. Cam Rutledge sitting in 8th place at the moment. He is probably, I'd say, not safe at the moment. 1 minute 20.6. Ben Hall behind him, 20.7. Ethan Knight, 20.8. Steele Allison, 20.8. Murrell, 20.9. So there's a few drivers knocking on the door of the top 10 here that they can upset the lower half of the 10 and knock a few drivers out.
Yeah, we're seeing only about 2 tenths between 8th and 12th here, so yeah, it's anyone's game at the moment.
I wouldn't rule out Steve Warwick either. He sits in 13th. He's not in the 1 minute 20s just yet. He's just outside on a 21.1, but if he strings a couple of good sectors together here.
Very much up on his second sector at the moment. He's 5 tenths up, so.
And he'll get
very close.
And he'll get one more lap as well, and he'll have a nice little bit of clear track ahead of him too. There's a couple of cars a bit further up the road, so Warwick improves. That gets him up to 12th, gets him into the 1 minute 20s, but he needs to go a little bit faster than that. Brown starting his last flying lap, so everybody coming to the line now. They're either ending a lap and getting one more, or they're about to come to the checkered flag as he hits the wall there. Going through turn 4, that might be very close to lap over. A little bit of a slide through turn 4, so that will make life a little bit difficult for Brown, and I think he's probably going to throw that lap away. Steele Allison slides it out of the final corner. He's got 30 seconds to go,
as well.
And he vaults himself into the 10. So he goes ahead of Rutledge. That knocks Rutledge, Hall, and Knight all down a spot. That actually puts Ethan Knight outside of the top 10, and he is on his last lap. He's actually got traffic as well. He's got Angus Wells here. And he's up as well, so he's got to be really careful. Wells has got to get around this corner pretty quickly and give room to Knight, and that's very awkward.
Oh, that's all.
That's awkward.
That sucks.
And that's Knight out of business. And
Alfred jumped up while we were talking as well,
yep.
but only to 11th.
Yep, so he misses out. Ben Hall is very lucky at the moment. He is the last man inside the 10, and I think Steve Warwick is the only one I'm really keeping an eye on to see if he's going any faster. Warwick to the line. He goes to 9th, and he knocks Hall out. Wow. I told you don't count him out, and that's exactly what he's done. He's vaulted himself up to 9th and knocks Ben Hall out of the equation. That means that Cam Rutledge is a super lucky man. I told you that Rutledge probably wasn't safe. He's just managed to survive for the moment, but for how much longer? So Murrell behind is not on a lap.
He bailed out of it on back straight.
He's bailed out of it. Darren Kemp, I think, as well, has bailed out of it. He's on an out lap. And Darren Lognan's bailed out as well. So that sets your top 10. Ryan Smith will be the last man out in the shootout. But
the difference, 9th to 13th, we had 2/10. Crazy.
Yeah, very, very close on that one there. So Warwick in with a 20.5. He said Cam Rutledge a 20.628. Ben Hall missed out by 3 1,000ths of a second on a berth in a shootout.
Yeah, it's 3 Bs, Dix, I think.
Basically nothing. So very, very tight at that lower part. 6th and 7th, Green and Allison actually 1 minute 20.17, 1 minute 20.19, so they were very close as well. So that is the first phase of qualifying completed, and the second phase is now about to come. So the top 10 that made the shootout order is going to be Cam Rutledge, followed by Steve Warwick, and then Angus Brown, Mitchell Steele, Allison, Anthony Green, Damon McDonald, Kai Jones, Luke Speck, Brandon Dostal and Ryan Smith. So that's where it all sits at the moment. And
that Ryan's time is properly fast. A 19.4.
Yeah, he lowered it again, didn't he?
Properly fast.
Yeah, so he absolutely smoked it in the latter half of qualifying, unsighted to us while we were watching all the attention going on behind. With people getting knocked out of the shootout, he has absolutely blitzed them.
And interestingly enough, he did 9 laps then, so I don't think he even came back in to swap tyres. He just ran the one set of tyres out.
Yeah, well, that's the case. Then he's done a mighty impressive job to be able to keep all that going on the one set of tyres. That's not what I would have expected to see.
Yeah, really, really, really good effort from him.
Fantastic effort. A couple of drivers I think will be a little bit disappointed with that one. I think Ethan Knight probably is the unlucky one there. Starting his last lap and coming across the lap traffic, that's very, very unfortunate for him. He would have had the lights on, but through the staircase, there's very limited opportunities to get out of the way.
Yeah, and even if he hadn't had that small contact with Angus, I think just the position of lap traffic during that hot lap just, ruined his run, unfortunately.
Yeah, certainly did. So he, unfortunately, is going to be starting, I think I called it, he's going to be starting in 11th place. No, sorry, he'll be starting in 13th, actually, because Hall was knocked out to 11th. Palfrey had been knocked down from 11th to 12th, and then Knight's going to be starting on 13th. And it was sad, too, because he was up at the first sector split. So he has got a bit of a mountain to climb, and that's going to be that's music to Ryan Smith's ears as well, the fact that he's starting a bit further down the order, because that's a tight battle for 3rd and 4th in the championship standings as it sits right now.
Yeah, and it's actually not very easy to get past people around this track. Compared to real life, turn 4 is actually very hard to get past in this game. It's really only turn 9 and the last corner that are real overtaking opportunities. So you don't want to be in the pack, I guess.
No. Right in the middle of the pack as well. It's a 23-car field, and you're starting plumb on the middle row of all of those cars as well. So it's a rather difficult situation there.
Cam has exited his pits. He'll be pretty chuffed that he's made the top 10.
Yeah, I think he will. I think it's been a while since we saw Cam Rutledge in a top 10 shootout. In any case, I know he applies his trade nowadays in the main game, and that's where he enjoys being in. But for Cam, it's a simple case of, you know what, I need a little bit of, you know, extra seat time sometimes, and when it comes to helping out one of my good mates that I brought into ASR, why not?
Yeah, him and Daryl get along like a house on fire, and it's good to be able to get some points on the table for this team. They're fighting for third, I think it is, in the championship, so getting just some points rolling through will help.
That's right. Well, both team cars have made the shootout. So one's going out first and one will be going out sixth. So that's a good haul of points for the team. And we will await to see how they go in the top 10 shootout. Remember, this is one of the teams that was doing quite nicely in the middle part of the season. They strung together a good couple of wins in a row. They were on fire. Both drivers getting their first wins in ASR competition in the middle of the year. It's been a little bit more of a struggle since then. Everybody else has picked their game up a little bit since, but nonetheless, this is a team that I fully expect will be making a red-hot charge at it in season 2025 in some form or another.
Yeah, the main drivers in this team, they really suited for the open tracks, but once they got to some street circuits, it really sort of undid that good form they were doing.
Something for them to work on when it comes to 2025, as Rutledge now brings it around the final sequence of corners and will prepare for his lap. So 1 minute 20.628 was the time that he used to get into the shootout. He performed to get into the shootout. We are about to find out how it all goes for regular Supercars veteran of very many starts as he starts a lap around the Adelaide Street Circuit. Let's go on board here into turn number 1, 2 and 3. Very nicely through the curve actually. Settled the car pretty well. Just took a little bit of curb on the left-hand side of turn 1 and not too much. Just picking a nice straight line through there. Missed the apex a little bit at turn 4. I've noticed that there's a bit of a difference between the way that some of these drivers prefer to take the curb and take some of the angles through here, where some drivers will use a bit of curb, just like Cam did there at turn 6. A lot of other drivers are doing it at turn 5, turn 4, and a whole bunch of other turns as well. They actually want to use the inside curb to pivot the car and get it to turn.
Yeah, Cam naturally is not a fan of curbs, so you'll see second last corner he'll avoid, turn 4 he'll avoid a little bit of tap on the wall there, but his car's still straight, still got mirrors on the car.
Yep, certainly does. And yeah, gave the wall a little bit of a rub going through, and now into the middle sector of a lap. So it's been a relatively composed run at the moment. 23.5 in the first sector, 32.4 in the middle sector. He was actually quicker in the middle sector than he was in his regular lap. And about 3/10 down on his sector 1 time. So tracking pretty close to his 20.6. It's probably going to be a high 20, low 21. It's a 21.3. So I went away from him there in the final sector just a little bit. His sector 2 was very good. Improvement on his first, on his qualifying lap to get him into the shootout in the first place.
Yeah, knowing Cam, he just wanted to get a banker in, and you never know with the other guys if there's a track card or hit the wall the wrong way, that 10th will start moving up for him.
Well, we saw it happen earlier this season with top 10 shootouts coming into play, and we saw it at Bathurst and we saw it at Sandown, where it doesn't matter what position you go out in the shootout, someone can really pull a lap out of nowhere and then end up top of the pops for quite some time, and then everybody struggled to beat that time by pure virtue of overdriving the car. It definitely can happen. Well, let's find out if Steve Warwick's going to be one of those drivers that potentially could make something happen here. Down toward turn number 1. Now, he's gone well over the curb there as well, quite wide. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a track violation there and he's pulling over to the left, and I would say that is game over for the 63.
Just as I was saying, if you get a track cut, Cam's going to be happy, and yeah, I think Steve's throwing this away.
Yep, fortunately, I think he certainly has. Let's get another view of that one while he comes back to the lane. So this is probably one of the angles here. So just have a look as he comes into the turn. That's that turn one there. That part's not the problem. It's this one here as you go through the sector there. Yep, all four wheels off the deck. Unfortunately, when you're in qualifying trim, the umpire disagrees with that one, and that is a track cut every day of the week.
Now, Steve, if the tyres aren't even on the road, does it count as a track cut?
I wouldn't want to be the judge of that, but I guess they sort of deem that, well, you've not kept it within the boundaries of the circuit anyway, so that will be why that's been adjudged to be a track violation. So for Steve Warwick, that means he goes to 10th. Look at the worst he's going to be is 10th. And he'll bring that one back into the lane. And Angus Brown now halfway around the circuit on his out lap. He's the next man that's in the catbird seat for the top 10 shootout. And while Cam and Steve were pretty close together, 120.6 and 120.5 respectively, it was Angus was 120.2, so he had 3/10 on these guys, all on his own, some in 8th. He wasn't too far behind a couple of the other drivers in Steele Allison and Anthony Green, who are both in the 120.1s, and they're of course coming out after Brown.
Yeah, Midley 8th to 2nd, I think, was separated by half a second, so they're all pretty tight up there. This order.
Yeah, very tight in this part of the puzzle, so if they can repeat those sorts of efforts, they will definitely be in a very, very close company again. Around the final corner for the North and South Racing at number 36.
Interesting to see, last two drivers have taken first turn in 4th. A lot of guys like it in 5th, and yeah, Green's done it in 5th. I mean, Angus has done it in 5th.
Yeah, so what's your thoughts on that one? Because I've seen a few drivers, as you said, coming down to 4th gear, and some drivers sort of just keeping it in 5th gear because they don't want to spin the wheels up on the exit when they apply the power.
Yeah, so some like 4th to get the sort of the nose to pitch in, use the engine to sort of pull the car into the corner. Personally, I prefer 5th to keep the momentum in the car and just brake a bit harder.
So Brown to the first sector, he was a good 2.5 tenths quicker than Rutledge's first sector time. So looking pretty good so far for an improvement. Just comparing that to what he did to get into the shoot as he gets the wall on turn 8. He did a 22.9 in the first sector, so he's about 3/10 off there as he backs it into turn number 9 to Ketterville Terrace, and about 3/10 ahead now of Cam Rutledge. So pretty much level pegging with what Cam did in the middle sector. But it's all about how you can get the car to pivot into turn here. You want to use a little bit of the curb, but you want to be able to straighten the car up fairly quickly to get on the brakes for turn number 14. And as we get to the finish line here, Brown, unsurprisingly, now goes to provisional pole with a 1:21.1. So about a second slower than what he did to get into the shootout, but nonetheless, it's a lap on the board, and he's pretty much maintained his position in the running order.
I expect the times to be a bit lower. As mentioning before, the hard tyres take forever to get to temperature around here. The pressures aren't quite right on that second lap, so yeah, everyone's going to be a little bit slower than their main qualifying effort.
Say it with me, everybody. Mitchell Steele Allison is the man about to conduct his shootout lap. He's been very speedy in some really good qualifying sessions, but he hasn't necessarily had a good run of luck. Gold Coast springs to mind, Will, as one of the ones for him that probably is the one that got away.
Yeah, it was really unlucky for him. When you say Steel, I keep thinking Iron Man, so I'd really like Iron Man on the side of his car instead of Jim.
Maybe it's something for next year. I know there was a little bit of an Iron Man car, I think, at one stage back in the day. It might have been 2019, I think it was, a Zach Ross Falcon, I think it was. I remember going around Townsville with an Iron Man looking livery on it. But maybe something for next year to grace the number 24, depending on what series he ends up in. Actually, one of the very few drivers that didn't give the outside wall there a rub at turn number 8. He was sort of neck and neck with Brown at the middle, at the first sector split. The second sector split, he's actually just drifted slightly.
Yeah, so it looks like Cam's really nailed that second sector, and the next two guys haven't been able to match it yet.
Well, the important thing for me is that this is now a comparison in terms of the lap time to the current provisional pole, which is Angus Brown. So for Steele Allison, if he can't nail this final sector, He is going to be finding himself starting behind Brown. 1 minute 20.1 to get in. 1 minute 21 flat, so he found it in a final sector. Actually, it was a very good final sector, full 3/10 quicker. So he pretty much wrestled all that advantage that he lost in the first 2/3 of the lap back in one sector alone. So salvages a little bit of pride there. It's still pretty close, actually, just under a tenth and a half.
Really surprised with that. Turn 11, he whacked the wall, but yeah, the last corner he powered out and that car just sat down for him. It really helped.
Anthony Green, the first of, well, it's actually second of the Mustangs to come out, and this will be our 5th runner, so we'll be halfway through the shootout after this lap is over, and he was fractionally ahead of Steele Allison by 2/100ths of a second in qualifying. So if that's anything to go by, expect these two to be fairly close together when this lap is over and done with. Gets through the chicane there. I think that was almost pretty much spot on perfect, getting through the centre S. And a great helicopter shot here, looking down to turn 4. A little bit of a lock up. That caused him to miss the apex at 4. So he had to wait a little bit longer to get around the corner.
Yeah, I noticed heading into the qualifying, or the shootout lap, he hit the grass on the last corner and sort of unsettled the whole car. And yeah, I wonder if that's hurt his first sector. It's 2/10 down.
Yeah, actually, I was a bit concerned that maybe the lockup might have probably had a little bit to do with it, sort of taking him off the ideal line. Here we go into turn number 8. Whip it into the corner. Don't hit the wall on the outside. That's millimetre perfect for Anthony Green as he powers down towards turn number 9. Gets it tucked in nicely. Second sector comes up now. He's lost a bit more time through the middle sector, and oh, that's a very awkward moment coming through 10 as well. Car jumps sideways. He actually caught a handful of curb there as well.
Yeah, almost looks like the brakes are just a little bit too rearward biased on this car. It always wants to seem to back into every corner.
Coming around the final corner now to set a lap time. He's looking at the Jim's Blackshaw machine, and he doesn't get ahead of it. In fact, he doesn't get ahead of Brown either. He actually slots in behind, so not by much. He actually misses out on provisionally on P2 by a couple of thousandths of a second, unfortunately, for Anthony Green.
Really good last sector though. He made up a bit of time, and I think it's the fastest rear sector we've seen in the shootout so far.
Very close to it, actually. Yes, in fact, it is. It was a 25.0, so it was a purple final sector for him, but unfortunately the damage was done in the opening couple of sectors, like a 23.5 in Sector 1 is identical to what Rutledge did at the very beginning of the shootout. So when you're sort of already 2 to 3 tenths behind the 8 ball after the first sector, you've got a bit of a mountain to climb. Here's the second of the Paint Doctor Engineering Mustangs, though, Damon McDonald.
Yeah, he's taken turn 1. That was in 4th, so we used 4th to get the car turned in, and it looked really nice and smooth.
Up to turn 4 now, turning it in from the outside the corner. Got the inside curve there, just a little bit of the painted lines there. Uses it all at 5. Got the wall on the exit there at turn 5 as well, but the clock actually looks fairly decent for him, a tenth and a little bit up, and maximising every little bit of real estate here, inside, outside, all the way up to the walls, driving it pretty much like he stole it at the moment. He's making every use of every part of this racetrack. How's he tackle turn 8? Wide turn in, just a little flash of the brakes there, and that's perfect.
That car pitched really nicely for him and made that corner absolutely perfect.
Yeah, he timed that to perfection, getting it through turn number 8. Clock has just drifted ever so slightly, but it's still in the game here, 10th in the game. This is tightening up as the second half of the shootout get set to start their laps. We're starting with this one, the sixth man out. He actually used, that's gone there. He upset the car. He turned it in too early for the final corner, got the inside curb, and
he's got it.
He managed to wrestle it out, though. Tell you what, though, I was worried that he turned that in too early. The car got away from him, and he might have lost that lap. That's tighter than it otherwise should have been had he not got that curb.
The last corner curve can be used to rotate the car, but yeah, as you said, it sort of threw the back end of the car out with the light fuel load. It didn't work for him.
Well, it's ultra tight after 6 runners have commenced and completed their laps. 5 have a time on the board. Unfortunately, Steve Warwick is the only one that doesn't. Kai Jones, Sideways Esport Aussie, number 6 entry, is the 7th man out in the shootout. And looking at the way we go from here, it's a couple of Mustangs and a Commodore to come.
Car's another one down to 4th. Car's bounced off the second curb, but I think that was millimetre perfect.
Not too bad at all. Good angle from here. A lot of drivers staying away from that turn 4 curb, though. I'm not sure if that's a deliberate tactic or not, but a few drivers have grabbed it. Most drivers have avoided it, and some drivers are a little bit scared, I think, to actually use that inside curb to pitch the car.
Yeah, a bit surprised with that. Turn 4's not bad, not a bad curb to really hit. It's turn 5. You really just want to clip turn 5. Turn 5 real just throw you into the opposite if you hit it too hard.
23 flat for Kai Jones in Sector 1. That's a very, very quick time. Absolutely quick time. It's the quickest one we've seen so far. Very nice through turn 8 as well. A little bit of wiggle under brakes. Oh, it's just sent him wide at turn 9. He couldn't get it pinched down to the corner like he wanted to, but the clock, I'll tell you what, that's a fantastic middle sector though. It's a purple middle sector for Jones, and this is looking like probably the first proper lap to really threaten the lower 1 minute 20s. Ride the curb at 13, using all the road at the approach to 14. Pinches down to the apex nicely. Nice drive out the final corner. Used all the road. Keep it to the left and shorten the drive. And it's a low 20 indeed. It's a 20.316. So very nicely done for the number 6 Mustang.
Yeah, that second and third sector were on fire. The turn 8 looked absolutely amazing.
Absolutely planted. 3 purple sectors for Jones. Can this man, the man in second place in the championship, do anything to wrestle that time? That's a mighty impressive time to have to tackle here for Luke Speck, and he is about to commence his shootout lap. So for Speck, it's been a bit of an up and down season for him. Only the 1 pole position, surprisingly, out of the 13 rounds. He's got 4 wins on the season. It's the second most wins, third most wins of anybody on the season. Only behind Green and Smith, who have 5 apiece.
He was someone that kept in gear 5 for turn 1 and 2. Was able to keep the car stable, and he's used a lot more of turn 4 curving it than the previous drivers.
Through 5, onto the first sector split here. Clock says, well, quarter of a second down. So that's against Kai Jones, mind you, as well. So quite a deficit to make up there. Two-wheeling it through turn 7. That was actually quite neat and tidy through there.
Yeah, I wonder if he's gone out a bit conservative. Got Kai with such a massive gap. So even if Luke does a relatively good lap for his pace, he'll still get the sort of the third place area.
Well, he improved some time there. He's clawed a little bit of it back. He's only a 10th down now, so it was a very strong middle sector, and purple middle sector, in fact, at a 32.15. So don't count this as over just yet. Knight rides the curb nicely, straightens it to the outside of turn 14, and now turns it in for the final corner and shorten the run to the line here. Is it close to Jones?
Oh, he's lost a little bit.
Lost a little bit in the final sector. Still pretty close, though, up the front. So with 2 runners to go, it's still a possibility he might be starting on the front row of the grid. But it's 2 very, very quick Mustangs that are about to commence their attempts at knocking the top 2 that are currently in provisional P1 and P2 off the front row.
So going on board with Dostal, we know he's got some natural talent, some proper speed behind that car, and he just needs to keep his head down.
Well, let's get an idea here of what he does going into turn number 1. So 5th gear, back to 4th, 165 Ks at the apex. Oh, Dostal with a big moment, massive moment going through the opening chicane there. That might be costly, that might drop him a couple of spots in the running order, but he had to gather it up. Fistfuls of opposite lock for the 76, and the clock at the first sector marker says I'm 2 tenths down.
Not as bad as I thought it was. He sort of lost all his momentum, but yeah, he's nailing all the corners at the moment, so making it up there.
A little bit of the outside curb and outside tyre bundle at turn 6, so it didn't seem to hamper his forward momentum. We get another angle here coming into turn number 8. There's a little bit of a rub. That's
brush.
okay. Just a little brush. You can get away with that. And
Really wide on the entry there.
yes, super wide actually. It's normally not that wide going into there. He's clawed a little bit of it back though. This is what Speck did in the second sector. He was down sector 1, found time in sector 2, but then when he got to sector 3, it all went away. So where does Dostal land? Where does the championship leader land with one more runner to go? That's how you use the inside curb there. That's different to what McDonald did. He got a little bit too much and got a bit too greedy. Dostal goes to P1. He finds the iron, he pulls it out of the fire, and he's provisionally on the front row. First man to do a sub 25 second final sector. So he finds what he needs, so he will be guaranteed a berth on the front row.
Yeah, that was an amazing final sector. I thought he was a bit late on the throttle at turn 11, but no, it worked fine.
Well, onto the form man. That is the one that everybody's been chasing in terms of the amount of points that have been acquired in the last 5 races across the last 3 rounds. He has he's been on a hot streak. There's nothing else you can say other than that. His season, 3 poles, 5 wins, 6 podiums. He has been on a tear lately. Can he add another pole to his tally? If he does, he'll equal Brandon Dostal for the season with 4.
Looking very smooth so far. Turn 1 and 2 were millimetre perfect, and he's used a lot of the curb turn 4 as he should. Just clipping turn 5, but the car's gone a bit wide.
Looking good. Just a tenth and a little bit to the good here. Throwing it around like a rag doll through the staircase section, getting the maximum real estate out of the car, but also giving the walls a little bit of a paint exchange at the same time. On to turn 8. This is the critical corner. Feed it in.
Beautiful.
Perfect. Good run. Helicopter shot will tell the story at turn 9. Little puff of brake locking on the approach. Doesn't hamper the turning point.
Oh, wow.
The clock's gone even further into the green. He's now nearly a quarter of a second to the good. Is it going to be a 19 in the shootout? Is it going to put the exclamation mark on what has been an incredible run in the last couple of rounds for Ryan Smith? It's turning nicely. It stopped nicely. It pitched a little bit wide on exit, but that's not too bad. He hasn't elected to shorten the run to the line. It's a 20.0. He lost a little bit of time in the final sector, but it's a 20.09, and he gets a just under a 2/10 of a second gap to Brandon Dostal. So he equals him with 4 poles for the season. So the poles in Super 2 shared 4 apiece to Dostal and to Ryan Smith. And then the other pole positions going the way of, so 2 to Ethan Knight, and then 1 to Luke Speck, and 1 to Anthony Green, and 1 to Damon McDonald. So that was the distribution of the pole positions across the 13 rounds for the year. But the pole position honours for 2024 in the development series in Super 2 are shared between the 2 men who'll start on the front row.
Yeah, they'll be stoked with that. Yeah, it was a great lap from Ryan, but really surprised how close everyone was. First to 4th, 3 tenths, and then 5th to 10th was another half second. So really tight shootout, really good to see.
Yeah, very tight shootout indeed. As we take we'll take a little short overture, I think, here from the proceedings, and we'll see how everything stands after all of that. And we'll move on to the warm-up session. But what we will do in the short interim here is we will go back to our Super 2 standings. So of course we talked about the top 10 that's already on the screen there. Let's go over the page. Let's have a look at positions 11 through to 20, because there's still a bit to fight for here. And if we look immediately on the top 2, you can see there Damon McDonald and Steve Warwick. There's only 21 points between the 2 of them, and same with Kemp and Angus Brown. There's only 6 points between the 2 of them, and Kai Jones and Mitchell Allison, only 20 points between them, with Scott Murrell sort of just drifting and hanging about like a bad smell in 17th. But a lot of drivers could find themselves changing spots in this little group on the screen here tonight too.
Yeah, like you look at what 15th to 18th, 120 points, 122 points. So yeah, it's I mean it's just bragging rights, but everyone likes to have a good brag at the end of the season. So yeah, you never know what will happen.
No, you never know what's going to happen, and as we've seen already this season, there's a lot of things that actually can happen, and in some cases well, it's like anything, isn't it? They normally do happen.
And in saying that, with the whole season, I did want to say that this season the devs have been absolutely fantastic. It's been the most competitive we've had, I think, ever, and the racing thing absolutely superb. Credit to all the racing.
Yeah, I agree. Big credit to everybody this year with the racing that's been put on. So, you know, there's a lot of drivers I think that are next year sort of wondering where things are going to land in terms of what positions and things they're going to be, whether they're going to be promoted or demoted or any of those sorts of motives. That's all sort of still yet to be decided. There's still a fair few things to unpack after this season is over and some assessments to be done. So we're not going to sort of worry about that getting too much in the way of ruining what is happening here tonight. You mentioned a little bit earlier about the teams, so let's have a look at the team standings. So you were technically correct when it comes to the fact that the Paint Doctor Engineering guys and the North South Racing guys, they're vying still for P3 in the team's standings. That's still mathematically possible between the two of those teams tonight. Loop and Q Racing effectively are the team's champions for Super 2 for season 2024. The lead that they have over SES Team Victoria is too much to be overhauled, and they are very, very comfortable there. Pallet Control Solutions Racing, they've had a bit of a difficult sort of back end to the season, also with Steve Burko's hardware failures over the last couple of rounds. Otherwise, they would probably be in that fight there as well for the Paint Doctor and the North South Racing guys. SES Team Kiwi, they've been down a man this year as well, with Reece McGillivray unfortunately being out with some health trouble. They're lucky though in the fact that both the Beyond Team Tanifer guys are not here this weekend either, so they actually can't be overhauled for 6th place. But the Blackshaw and Jim's guys, they can definitely jump up to 6th place tonight with both cars being here. And then the last two spots there, Sideways Esport Aussie and CRE DevOps, so there's a challenge there that could change tonight as well between 9th and 10th. When it comes to the lead Super 3 team, that unfortunately is off the page. It's all the way down in 12th overall in terms of the teams, and that's the Hughes Set Vincenia by PBF, and they actually have a fairly decent margin over the Napa Motorsport Academy of Matt Cecil, one of the very few Super 2 teams this year, sorry, Super 3 teams this year with 2 cars, so I guess that helps in its own right as well. The only other team in Super 3 with 2 cars was Beyond Racing, the 2 Nissans. They've unfortunately been a little bit inconsistent this year with attendances and so on, so naturally a bit too far behind as it sits for the championship. But that's the teams pretty much is done and dusted for P1 and P2 in Super 2. P3 will be settled tonight.
Yeah, and I'm looking at these numbers, and it's surprising how much it matches up with the main game as well. It's quite interesting to see. Yeah,
very, very interesting actually, when you sort of think about, you know, where everybody is relative to, you know, main game. And to think that some of the drivers that are in the development series do double duty in supercars as well. It's amazing just to see where some of these teams are at. And then when you look at the drivers that are in those teams, you come back to comparing the two of them together, and it's scary ironic how close, you know, it is in both series. Like the positioning is almost identical in some cases.
Yeah, so main game we got pretty much similar gap between first and second. There's a pretty decent battle for third, and we've got the exact same thing over here in Dev, and the team's pretty much the same as well. We've got one team that's run away with it, but everyone's scrounging for two, 3, and 4.
Yeah, I'll say. Well, there's not too much that's going on, I guess, at the moment. It's just the final throws of practice. A few drivers coming around to start some practice starts. I don't know why they're all lining up, or a few of them are all lining up on the same side, because they may not necessarily be starting from that side of the grid. A few drivers opting to do a pit lane check as well, because of course there will naturally be some pit stops required in this race, because it is a 125 kilometre race. You can't get home on a full tank without a whole lot of help. When I'm talking help, I mean a whole lot of safety car help, it's a high probability around here, Will.
Yeah, and look, the guys doing the practice pit entries, it will serve them well. It's probably one of the more awkward entries. You're having to really get the car around a fast sweeping corner and then pull it up really early on tyres that are probably pretty munted by that stage. So I actually expect to see a few guys hitting that wall on entry if they haven't practiced.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the time has come. It is time to not only crown a champion, but to finish the development series season off for season 2024. Just a reminder too that it's not only the development series that finishes in November. Next week we will of course be doing exactly the same thing for the main game supercar drivers as well. We will be crowning a champion and closing the season for 2024, as well as finishing off all the broadcasting as well. I'm with, like you, Will. I think some of the racing this year in development series has been absolutely stellar. We've seen some great performances from a number of drivers. Who can forget some of these shootouts that we've seen? Who can forget some of the weird and wonderful finishes that we've had to the year in terms of drivers performing unexpectedly well? It's been a great year, and hopefully we'll be going out on a high tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. And the drivers are moving off the front straight.
Well, for the final time, we run through the grid for the development series in 2024. Ryan Smith will start on the pole, so 4 poles for him this year. 4 poles for this man as well, right alongside in Brandon Dostal. First time in a long time, actually, that the pole position award has been shared. Usually it's one car that's fairly dominant, or one driver that's fairly dominant. Kai Jones, I think that's probably got to be a season best qualifying for him in 3rd place, with Luke Speck in 4th. So the drivers in 2nd and 4th, mathematically still in the hunt in the championship picture, but this man with a fair bit of work to do. Damon McDonald in 5th for the first of the Paint Doctor Engineering Mustangs. Mitchell Steele-Allison in 6th place in the Blackshaw Gyms number 24. Angus Brown starts 7th ahead of Anthony Green. And then Cam Rutledge starting 9th and Steve Warwick starting 10th. So the cars in the top 10 from both teams, both of the Blackshaws and Gyms machines, both of the Paint Doctor Engineering cars, and both of the North and South Racing Commodores. Ben Hall, unlucky to be knocked out of qualifying and missed out on the shootout at the last minute. He starts 11th. Jacob Palfrey, he was another one that was on the bubble, knocked down late, so he starts in 12th. Ethan Knight, he's going to have a little bit of a hard task here, starting in 13th, right smack in the middle of this pack. Definitely not where he wanted to be, especially with a championship fight for 3rd brewing with Ryan Smith. Darren Lognan, he'll start 14th, ahead of Scott Murrell and Darren Kemp on row 8. Brody is your pole sitter in Super 3, and alongside him is Adam Kerrison. So those two, of course, going for 2nd overall in the Super 3 Championship, with Matt Cecil, the points leader in Super 3, right behind them in 19th, ahead of Cracker, the hometown South Australian, starting in 20th. And then rounding out our field of 23 is Angus Wells, Glenn Miles, and Alex Kiddis, who will be off the rear of the grid. So keep an eye out for this car coming through, because he's definitely got some pace, but he's got to get through those Super 3 cars over the course of the first couple of laps. That's going to be the challenge for Alex Kiddis.
It just occurred to me that Mitchell should actually have Superman on the side of his car, not Iron Man. Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. Yes, I think that's Tim Redmond in the chat saying exactly the same thing. Real Steel Jackman, because that's actually that movie was on the other night.
That was a great movie.
That was a very good movie. Anyway, Round the
He's coming around, and we're all lined up.
We're all lined up, very close to being the final sequence of corners. Are you ready, ladies and gentlemen? We're ready in the box here. It's the last race of the season. The Adelaide 125, race 26 of the championship is underway. What a conversion from the pole sitter. Great launch there for Ryan Smith. He'll sweep across to the right-hand side of the circuit. He'll have full carte blanche into turn number 1. He'll have it all to himself effectively while all the action goes on behind.
Yeah, it's not like everyone else didn't get off the line relatively well. It's just, yeah, Ryan just blitzed it.
He absolutely nailed that start. He's got a healthy margin already. In the middle of the pack here, you've got McDonald fighting very hard tooth and nail with Steele Allison now. Don't get Brock Feeney at turn 6 here. They leave each other some space going down into that part of the course, and you need to do that on the opening lap here because the tyres are cold, pressures are down, cars are full of fuel. You need to make sure you can get round this lap and get some heat into those Dunlop hard tyres so it survives for the rest of the race.
Driver after driver hitting turn 8 at the moment.
Yep, you can see it in the back of the shot as well. There's a few drivers just giving it a little bit of a wide berth at the moment. There's a few drivers that are taking a few liberties with the corner. A little bit of a couple of half-hearted looks as well here. I think you've got Kemp looking down the inside of Murrell at turn number 9. Murrell's in the grass and Murrell's going to be in the fence.
You think he hit himself for that one?
Yeah.
That was a rookie error.
That's a very much a rookie error, and he'll feed back on here, and he'll be 22nd and second to last. Jacob Palfrey is the one that's caught my eye. He's had a very, very poor lap. In fact, he's had a really poor middle sector. I'm not sure what's happened to him. We might see if we can go back and see if we can grab that on the Paint Doctor replay here because, yeah, something has definitely happened here. Oh, I can see what's happened here. He's actually had it, we're just winding it back on the broadcast. Didn't quite get it all done in time. Here it is, real time. He tried to go round the outside there. Oh, and he spun across and then tried to come back across and spun across the nose. I think it might have been a Murrell.
Yeah, it's unfortunate Murrell was a full lock there and yeah, it's come across the nose. Not much drivers can do about that one.
Nope, unfortunately not.
Nice little ding-dong battle for third at the moment.
Yep, for second, third and fourth. It is happening here. Here comes Speck down the inside of Kai Jones. Job done.
Yes, very well done. Speck there, he made the intention very clear and Kai's let him have it.
Yeah, long race. No sense throwing any the kitchen sink at it this early going, but that was a very, very smart move, I think, on behalf of Jones, just to let the door leave it wide open and let the paint sort of, remain as where it is on that car for a little bit longer.
And this battle for seconds, meaning Ryan's able to walk away with it. Already nearly a 3-second gap from the field on lap 3.
Yeah, he's blitzing it at the moment. There he is in front of shot, so he's got quite a healthy margin at the moment. And I'll tell you what, Dostal holding up the train a little bit here. That's starting to bring McDonald, Allison, Green's not too far off joining the back of this little gaggle of cars too. So Dostal might want to be careful here that he doesn't hold this up for too long. He might be potentially playing or trying to play a long game here. Maybe go maybe a couple of laps extra. Put a little bit of fuel left in the tank. Oh, he's had a moment there, exiting 7. That's going to be careful of trouble now because Speck's got to run. Now, the rule is that you need to be sensible into turn 8, and I think Dostal realised it pretty quickly that he had the momentum. There was no point fighting it on the narrow line, and Speck goes through to P2. Kai now looking down the inside. Dostal, a little bit of Morse code on the right rear corner of the 76.
Look, I'll give credit to Dostal there. He could have fought for turn 8, but he backed out. That was really smart driving.
Yeah, that is probably one of the smartest bits of driving I've seen him do all season long. Realise the mistake is there, and that's just one word in his mind: championship. Don't do anything silly. I don't need to throw it away. I don't need to fence it. I don't need to go laps down. I don't need to not finish this race. I've got to get to the line no matter what. Yeah.
And you're right, he just needs to finish this race. But as a driver, it's really hard not to drive at the 10-10s.
Oh, Jones down inside.
What a dive.
Oh, that's a big send, and Jones is going to lose 2 extra spots as a result of that. So the pass was on, but unfortunately he couldn't pull it up, and now he's got a bit of a fight on his hands here as well. Oh, there's a car facing the wrong way, and it's Angus Brown, who's been caught out I was wondering what the yellow flag was for, and I thought it might have been for Jones, but no, it's for Brown, who gets moving again, and he's going to sink down to the bottom of the order as well. So is this all on his own, or was this something else going on in play here? Oh, he had a lock-up, and that'll be grass. It'll be on his own. And actually, he's probably fared a little bit better than Palfrey there, I think, as well. As Palfrey lost a bonnet, probably did a fair bit more damage. Brown has just not hit the wall as hard.
It's with Angus and Adelaide.
I don't know. You tell me. So keeping an eye on some progress here. So one of the drivers has started at the back, Alex Kiddis. We expected him to make a little bit of progress. He's slowly picking his way through the field. It's lap 4. He's moved himself up to 18th place, so that's 5 spots gained. Slowly picking his way through the Super 3 group of cars. The car behind him there is the Palfrey machine, and behind that you've got Glenn Miles and Angus Wells. They're the only other cars that are there. So I'm actually quite impressed with his temperament. Like, it's a bit of an interesting sort of situation for him, where you've got to start from the rear of the grid, start to push your way through the field. But these Super 3 drivers in front, they're genuinely got some pace at the moment. I'll tell you what also has got some pace is those wheels on the 134 machine. I don't know where he got them from. It looks like they're almost too big for the car.
They're tricky, but they look fantastic.
Where's Bob Marley when you need him? Some rims befitting of a Rastafarian himself.
I'll note that Luke Speck got the fastest lap last time round, and pretty much matched his qualifying time with a full car, so he's absolutely flying.
Yeah, 20.4 for him last time around, and he's running on his own, so he's cleared away from that Dostal Speck, sorry, that's the Dostal McDonald Steele Allison battle, and he was a good, 5, 6, 7 tenths of a second quicker than Smith last time around, and the same again. So he's taking a fair bit of time out of Ryan here, but got to do it in a nice sort of easy and sensible way. Got to make sure that you're going to be able to hit the numbers that you need to hit, and keep the tyres in check, and make sure that everything was caught in play. There was a puff of smoke there as Smith made a mistake up here at turn number 6. Maybe he ran a little bit wide there. The margin actually went the other way, so I don't think Speck sort of fully capitalised on it.
We've seen this from Speck all year. Once he gets air, he's able to just circulate and get, he turns into a metronome for his times, where when he's in traffic it really hurts him.
Another car that's had a bit of a moment somewhere here, I think, as well, as Rhodey goes through in Super 3. I saw there was a car nose into a fence. I think it actually might have been... I was trying to work out who it might have been. There's a car that's sort of falling down the order and sort of had to pick its pace up. It might have been Cam Rutledge who was nose into a fence and managed to get himself going and get himself out of harm's way. Or it might have been Glenn Miles, who's unfortunately retired from this race. It's one of the two. Oh, big whack of the wall there for Daniel Murrell at the back of this group on turn 8.
Yeah, it's actually Murrell's been doing well after that lap 1 incident.
I think it was Glenn Miles who unfortunately was the car that I noticed was in the wall. So unfortunately for him, his season comes to a conclusion after about 5 laps of the Adelaide Parkland circuit. Here is Murrell. So isn't this ironic? He's gone back behind Palfrey, who was the driver that spun off his front bumper bar in the early going on lap 1. And taking the liberties with the curb a little bit there through turn 1 and 2 and 3, and ranging up bound to the back of the 86. So Kiddis has moved up another couple of spots. He's up to 16th place. Still hasn't been able to clear Rhodey or Kerrison or Cecil. So that's a surprise for me. Will, I would have thought he would have cleared them quite easily by now.
I think he's actually surprised with the pace of these Super 3 guys. They're absolutely valiant.
In actual fact, he's in 17th. There's a lap car in between. Palfrey's actually a lap down, who's tucked in behind Kerrison. In behind Kiddis here. See, he's got good pace. He closes up under the braking, but he's just not anywhere near close enough to send it up the inside.
Yeah. Note up front, we'll be down to under 2 seconds for a gap.
Yep, certainly starting to close that margin down now. What's the situation? Oh, there's a car across the track, Steele Allison. So he's had a moment, and he's going to be forced to pit here. So this is he's got puncture, I think. Right front. I'm guessing it's a right front puncture. Just judging by the puff of smoke that we saw coming in. So this is an unscheduled stop for the Blackshaws and Jim's machine. And yeah, confirming. I think he's it's a right front puncture. He's actually had an off somewhere, I think. Just watch here as he comes into the lane. Just watch the smoke come off the front right puncture. So
yeah, I'd say after turn 11, he's probably hit the wall too hard, and yeah, it's either the front or the rear is punctured. The rear looks a bit saggy as well.
Yeah, so there's been a bit of an issue there for him, and that unfortunately means that, well, he was in a relatively strong position there, and he is going to go very close to, if not go, 1 lap down.
Yeah, and it's an awful time for him to have to pit. If it was lap 12, he could probably make it home, but yeah, he's a full lap too early to come to the pit.
Yeah, he's now officially gone a lap down to the leaders as well, so that's a bit of a kick in the teeth for him as well. He's actually going to come out on track behind Ethan Knight. So Knight's the beneficiary of that because he's now up to 9th, so that puts him inside the top 10. So I just want to run some numbers here and just have a little bit of a look at where Ethan and Ryan are in the championship standings. So Ryan, of course, is set up in such a way that if he finishes in first and then Ethan finishes where he is at the moment, it'll be Ryan will be comfortably ahead and will take P3 in the championship, so he will move ahead as it stands right now, and it'll be by quite a substantial margin as well. So for Ethan, he really needs to get his skates on here and try and close that gap down as much as possible.
We were saying Smith in first. Luke's been able to get it nearly under a second now.
He's getting closer. I'm watching the margins. He is definitely getting closer. It is under a second now. New fastest lap of the race that time around as well. So in the clean air, the KFC machine has definitely
It's faster than his qualifying.
That's
faster than his qualifying.
It's faster than his shootout lap. Be careful, because in qualifying he was in the 19th. So definitely faster than the shootout lap. But he's been punching it out quite consistently now, and is getting rather incentivized by the back of that horrendously looking Sun Energy 1 machine. I think a few people are still a bit miffed as to how that got through the livery standards, but it did. But he'll be chasing the flame on that arse for a few more laps now, I think.
Yeah, and with the championship positions, like, it'll be interesting to see if Smith wants to put up too much of a fight here.
He'll want the win. That's the bit for me. Smith will definitely want the win. He'll want it for pride. There's some lap traffic now coming into play, which is Angus Wells. I think he's had a bit of a moment somewhere as well in all of the last couple of laps. There's a yellow flag, very brief yellow flag, and I think that might have been for Wells. He might have actually been down the escape road. So here we go. The whole badge is getting closer and closer and closer to the rear bumper cam on the Ryan Smith number 60 machine. Dostal's got a clear margin either side of him at the moment for second, between second and fourth. So he's all sort of on his own in third place
at the moment. He just wants to keep in touch with these guys at the moment. If he's able to do that, you never know what happens with these two once they get together.
I wouldn't say keep in touch, because at the moment he's sort of just very much just circulating at the moment, and in his own frame of mind, he's in the low 21s. So for him, this is what he needs to do: just keep moving, keep it pushing along, and he'll end up with a fairly decent result at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's actually the way it's turned out for him. He's got 3 seconds ahead of him and 3 seconds behind him. He's nice pillow between the cars around him, which is perfect.
Yeah, quite a nice cushion for him. Right, down the inside, it's happened. So down at turn number 9, and Smith didn't fight it. So Speck goes to the lead of this race. So a change there So Luke's where he needs to be. He needs to be in first place. Unfortunately for him, his title rival's in third and cruising quite comfortably at the moment. So now it's a case of what happens next.
Yeah, so Luke's doing everything he can to perfection at the moment. But we've also seen Ryan actually turns on after the pit stop. So don't count Ryan out just this moment.
No, wouldn't count him out just yet, but I'm also keeping in mind that he may very well go into a little bit of a conservation mode here, maybe try either an overcut or an undercut at some point, depending on what happens next. Here's a nice little exchange. Anthony Green has moved himself up 4 places into 4th, so good turn of speed from him in the opening stanza here, and has moved, in the last lap or so, has moved himself ahead of the 666 of Damon McDonald. But these two are very much glued nose to tail here at the moment, and I wouldn't be surprised if it stays that way until we get to the pit stop sequences.
Yeah, well, no, Kai Jones was fighting for 4th last lap, so I'm wondering if something's happened with him.
Yeah, I'm just looking, he had a 1 minute 38 last time around, so he's had a pretty poor, what lap was that? Pretty poor 11th lap, and now sort of finds himself down in 10th.
And fighting with Darren in 9th. Darren's made up some spots off the 9-5 spots. Really good drive so far.
Yeah, fine drive from him as well. Tell you what, fine drive from Ben Hall as well. He's up 5 spots, and he's the next target for Ethan Knight.
Yeah, he's kept his nose clean, and it really showed. I don't think he's touched anyone or any wall at the moment. So yeah, it's worked out for him a treat.
Tell you what, he's been someone that's missed a little bit of a wiggle there. Oh, that opened the door for Steve Warwick as well. Steve's going to be up the inside of Ethan and Flash here if he's not careful, but no, couldn't quite make that happen. I was about to say, for Ben, who has spent quite a fair bit of the season absent, both from Super 2 and from Supercars, he's got back into seat pretty quickly and up to speed fairly quickly as well.
Yeah, Ben's one of these people who's got sort of natural driving ability, and if he had the time to sort of practice and rock up to every race, he'd be really fighting for the championship as well.
Yeah, he's somebody that I sort of had penciled in. Like, if he'd been able to make all the rounds, I would have thought he would have been, top half a dozen spots in the series, but hasn't quite worked out for him this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next year. See if he fights back and bounces back.
Well, that's that little battle there. Steve Warwick there in 8th, and then we go back to the other little one that you were talking about. So Kai Jones had sort of fallen off his perch as the first of the drive-through. Yeah, first of the drive-through penalties is issued for track infringement. So they'll be on the horn to the second of the Hugh Set Vincenia machines and let them know they need to take a tour of the lane a little bit earlier than expected.
Awful time in the race to start getting your drive-throughs here. It's another 20 laps here. You have to get no more track cuts. So.
Well, we're only at 1/3 distance too. That's the problem. So you've got to go 2/3 of the race now, and you've burnt up all your track cuts. So not a great start. Oh, bit deep for Darren at the final corner here, and Jones will now be up the inside in a flash and grabs P9 back. So on the move, and unfortunately for Lognan, that's a loss of position number 9. But Kai's got the speed, I think, here, so it was probably inevitable at some point. But back through to position 9 he goes. He's got a fair old effort to catch up to the next group of cars. He's a bit wide there, but he's got to catch up to this group of cars that's going through turn 6 at the moment, with only down at turn 5. So it's only a few seconds up the road. Another drive-through penalty for the number 64 machine in Mike McDonald, aka Cracker. And
speeding? No, it wasn't speeding.
No, that'll be another track violation. I'm looking where he is at the moment. Actually, he's coming into the lane now, so he got another track violation before he came in. I'd imagine he possibly might have got something. Maybe he took a bit too much curb at one of the last couple of corners before the pits.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably turn 11. That's what you'd probably get it. I'm not sure the game actually award him to drive through.
Oh, I'll tell you what, that's close. He was doing the right thing, waiting as far to the right as he possibly could for the leaders to go through. I tell you what, that will leave a brown stain in Brandon Dostal's underpants.
Many poos will have been had right then in Dostal's car.
Oh yeah, that's there will be. I'm fully expecting the kitty peeper scooper to be pulled out at the tyre stop and extricate whatever is left from the seat. Here we go. Back to the Super 3 battle with Murrell trying to enforce his little bit of knowledge or car on in the action here. Now remember, he's not a factor in obviously in the Super 3 Championship, but Rhodey needs to finish and stay ahead of Kerrison. So the smart thing would be to let him go, and he does.
Yeah, nice little train though. Rhodey's really put up a good fight in this race. He rocked up for the practice night last night. It was very, very competitive.
Oh.
Yeah, it's showing tonight.
Murrell wide. That's the second or third car I've seen in as many laps go a bit wide by locking the brake at turn number 6. And Rhodey goes straight back through. This is probably one of Rhodey's better drives I think we've seen so far, especially over the first half of the race. But again, very familiar with this circuit. I'll tell you what though, he got the wall fairly decently at turn 8 there. He wasn't like just a little slide down the wall like he has been. That was a fairly decent thunk.
Yeah, decent dive from Kidders then. I think he made up 3 spots in one.
Yeah, he got ahead of Cecil, but also Palfrey got through as well. I remember Palfrey's a lap down.
Yeah.
So Alex is slowly picking his way through the field. If he can clear the Super 3 traffic, he's only got to clear Rhodey, who's the last car in Super 3, and then he's sort of going to get back up to, that'll put him up to 14th or 15th. Then if a safety car comes out, Alex is right back in this.
Whoa!
Oh dear.
Scott he's hit a few walls so far tonight, and I don't think that car's acting like he wants it to act.
No, I don't think so either. And Rhodey's sort of being very, very coy about what he does here. He wants Scott to go past him, but he doesn't want to give too much of a spot up here. And this is going to get a little bit awkward. It's going to end in tears if this is not careful. As Murrell down the inside here at 7. Now Kiddis is going to try and get a run here on Rhodey, I think. If he doesn't get it before turn 8, he'll probably get it down to turn 9. And this is where common sense needs to prevail, and Rhodey bails. Oh, no, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. It is a big accident, and Kiddis is in the fence. And I'll tell you what, that is...
He wants to get off the driving line there.
Yeah, he needs to get out of jail very quickly there, because that was something that's been talked about, and the safety car's been called, and that's all she wrote. So for Kiddis and Rhodey, they have come to blows. I did say that Alex had a bit of a run here. When he had the run, I thought Rhodey was going to bail. I actually thought he didn't want to be caught on the outside, but you cannot go too wide into turn number 8. And that's how it all ends. Now, this has fallen in a particularly decent way for a number of drivers. So Kiddis is going through. That's a mistake. He should have come into the pit lane here because a whole bunch of cars are in the lane. So
Luke in, Ryan in.
Yeah, so these guys are all in. They were in that thing, and everybody else was almost sort of part-way round the lap. Yeah, here come all the leaders now. So this is going to be a very busy time in pit lane. So bear with me here because we're going to have to switch a few cameras. There's your race leader. He's in. Dostal is in. Green not. That's a surprise. That's a big shock. He's going to go through here, and you can make it home from here. Surely you can make it home from here.
Yeah, so the car can hold 22 laps of fuel, 23. He could easily make it. I wonder, was his teammate in the garage at the same time?
You're right, Smith. Well, Smith was in the lane, and he's that's a case. Oh, this is going to be awkward at the exit here. So Hall trying to get in as the same time as Speck was trying to leave. Thankfully for Speck, Smith was not close enough to capitalise there. But this closes the pair of them up, so they'll come out P2, P3. I don't know why Anthony Green didn't pit.
Well, he hasn't caught the safety car yet. It might be a mile up the road. I still can't see it. He's viewing it.
Well, so Green he hasn't come out.
Be okay.
Maybe it hasn't come out, but Green's down at turn number 1. Sorry, turn 8 now. I'm looking for the safety car. That's out the rear shot. That's out the front shot. And this is all the lap traffic going on here. So I think maybe you're right. Maybe the safety car hasn't left the lane yet. And he's hedging the bets. So
it's not too bad for him, actually.
Yeah, okay, there we go. So yes, it's now here. The lap traffic's trying to unlap itself. That's the problem. So now he's caught up to it, and now he probably will decide to pit. But for Green, This is, well, that's a huge loss. Who's the next car in the queue behind the safety car? It's Murrell, isn't it?
Yeah, Murrell, so it will be Luke that inherits it. I don't actually think Green will lose too much because there was so much of a kerfuffle in the pits.
That's right. So Scott Murrell's got to go past here.
Huge gag will have to go past actually.
Yep, and everybody as well. So yeah,
Murrell's off.
Yep. So everybody else that's got to get past is in a bit of a problem here. So Cecil, Rhodey gives a bit of contact with the safety car at the same time. Now this is a bit. Now this will be a bit of an issue if you're because you got to drive through there for Palfrey. So the problem here is that you've got Angus Wells, who is a lap down and needs to, I guess he is, he's not the leader. The first car behind the safety car needs to be the leader, so they need to be told to do.
So I will note, Green only lost one spot in that.
Yep.
He's down to 5th, and he came in, and he was in 4th in the running, so he hasn't lost anything.
No, so that's not too bad. Green,
Oh,
I'll tell you what,
right,
though, he's got, that's not good. And that means you can't gain that spot back either. So what's he done here? He's just gone off all on his own. That's it. What turn's that? That's a turn 5.
Yeah, he just forgot to turn.
Well,
he forgot to brake.
I'll tell you what, that is put that down as one of the odd ASR moments of the season. Let's have a look at this, will we? So Ben Hall behind, not applying. I was going to say applying a little bit of pressure. Hall had a lock up there, and Green. What did he do? Did he just like not turn in, or just too fast?
Brake enough.
Just too fast. That's a curious one. That so he's given up a couple of spots there.
Nice Christmas for Ben. Made up a spot on the safety car. Very well done.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas indeed. So Ben Hall gets 5th. That puts Steve Warwick into 6th. Has Warwick stopped? I think he has actually. So that might have shaken out okay for them. And the train's still got to catch the safety car here, and then that puts Green down to 7th.
Very weird.
One of the weird moments in ASR Development Series history. Okay, we do have the safety car has started to amass the train. So for Luke Speck, he's now directly behind the safety car. Now, for those that are not familiar with how the safety car rules actually work in ASR, it's been the case for some time that the leader must be the first car behind the safety car at all times. If you are lap traffic and you are caught between the leader and the safety car, you must pass it. So that's the simple equation. That's why the likes of Kerrison and Wells and Rhodey and all the others have gone through, because they've been instructed to do so. If you are a lapped car behind the race leader and in between other cars, you stay right where you are. And that's because the leader needs to be in control of the field when it comes back to the green flag, which I don't know when this is going to be, but there's a fairly decent sort of strung out situation here. You can see as they come around turn 8 that the field is not fully 100% lined up behind the safety car.
Yeah, given how spread out everyone is, it's probably going to go around.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't think anybody's really under any illusions here that they need to get going. And of course, there's all the Super 3 traffic and the other cars that are still yet to catch the back of the train. So looking at the likes of...
Say that, but Luke's bringing the field together, so it might be... We might be going green now.
We might very well be, but look where Cecil and Rhodey and that are. They're all down there. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah, Specs actually gathered the field up. So this is rather interesting. I was with you. I thought surely we were going around for another lap, but it does not appear to be the case. No penalties have been issued or levied here at this stage. Normally what happens is the penalties do get cleared. There we go. So a few drivers are in some trouble here. And Luke's gone. So I did see Knight pop out from behind somebody there in the back of the queue. So there might have to be a bit of a look at just to see what happened after that. But we are back to green flag running here on lap 21.
Really good start from Luke, with Ben having a sneaky look down the inside of Dame today.
So onwards we go as Warwick now tries to hold off Anthony Green here, who's looking to snaffle P6 back on the inside at turn number 6. And you've got to be careful here because Knight's going to stick his nose down the inside if a gap presents itself. So Warwick's got to close that off, and he hasn't quite been able to close that off. And Knight's going to have to slot back in here behind the 63 on the run to turn 8. Behind Knight, you've got Alex Kiddis, but remember, he's now a lap down because of the accident.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, why is he a lap down? Oh, yeah, the accident.
Yeah, well, the accident also, and he went around during the safety car period as well. He didn't come in when all the other drivers saw the yellow flag and came in. Tell you what, this is a fair old fist fight here for 6 and 7 with Green chucking up the inside again, but Steve Warwick holding his own pretty well.
Yep, and the leading through started walking way already from the field.
Yeah, and Dostal's just assuming his position in P3 here as well, and just doing what he's been doing all season long, pretty much just trying to be as consistent as possible. Back to the front here, and I'll tell you what, Speck would have burnt a track cut there at turn number 1. He was well wide of the corner, and I think Smith had dropped back a little bit there, purely knowing that he might be a little bit tight on lives as well.
Yeah, this is going to be really cool to watch. This is where Ryan sort of switches on the second half of the race, where Luke's been on fire the first half of the race. I think Ryan will switch it on now.
So having a bit of a look through the situation here, it looks like that Speck may have only burnt the 1 track cut, so he's got a couple more lives up his sleeve. Ryan doesn't look like he's got any, and Brandon Dostal looks like he doesn't have any amassed either. So at this stage, it looks like it's fairly okay between the top 3 in terms of where their lives are at with regards to the stewards and the potential, bad sportsmanship flag that might turn up at some point.
Warwick's turned into a bit of champagne cork in the bottle at the moment. Nice and decent train behind him, and a couple of rough corners. Green's snuck the nose up on the inside.
Yeah, he's driving a rather defensive line here as well, and I think, did he get a little bit of a nudge there at turn number 14? He might have. I tell you what though, if he did, it upset Green more than it upset anybody else, because Ethan has now got a fairly decent run out of the last corner, but can't do anything with it. He's got to be careful too. The very speedy Kai Jones is tucked in behind him too, so Jones might look to send something up the inside here, if not too much longer. A little bit of a lock-up from Warwick. There's going to be someone, I fear there's going to be someone that ends in a concrete barrier here very soon.
Yeah, Warwick is being very defensive. It's taking him off his racing line, which means he's hitting every wall on exit at the moment as well, which is slowing him up and slowing everyone else behind him up.
Now this is the critical corner. This is the one I always refer to as the critical corner at turn number 7, because if you get a good run out of here and you sit you're tucked right in behind the car in front, you typically get a good run down to the next corner, which is turn 9. That's what Green's looking to do here, but covered off by Warwick. I'll tell you what, that opened the door though for Knight. Thank you very much, potentially on the cards here. And Knight sends it on Green. Oh, and a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. Oh. And I'll tell you what, I told you I said someone was going to end up in a fence. That very nearly happened right there.
Tell you what, Knight, that is some superb car control. He was basically all locked up into turn 9 and then also onto the grass heading into turn 11. Still kept it on the track. Really good car control.
Kemp Pallet Control Solutions car up the inside of Scott Murrell at the final corner. And just that outside run has got so much drive coming out of the final corner. So Kemp can't do anything on the inside with it. Recovering Mitchell Steele-Allison in behind here as well. So he's managed to get himself, is he back on the lead lap? No, he's not. He's still 18th, so he's actually a lap down. He's second, and the car's lap down. Whoa. Murrell into the fence and violently back into the side of the PCS number 4.
Yeah, Murrell went away from the wide on turn 4 there, and there is a tyre barrier that will bring him back onto the track, whether you like it.
That's exactly right. That's, yeah, we saw it as we went around. It's a very violent little piece that just juts out, and you sort of come around the corner and not expect it to be there, but you have to remember that it's there.
Yeah, 100%.
So through they go.
Ethan's made the move on Green and managed to make it stick this time round. Yeah,
this time he's got it done. So can he do anything about Steve Warwick, who's running in 6th place here? What do you think?
Yeah, we'll get a bit of a gap because of these two fighting. So yeah, take a few laps for Ethan to catch up.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think there's anything. I don't think there's anything that Ethan can really do at this point, apart from just to put his head down and try and plough on as much as he possibly can, and see if he can catch up, and then start to apply a little bit of pressure. Got 2 cars now that are non-finishers in this race. So you've got Jacob Palfrey, who joins Glenn Miles out of this one, and Wells has come into the lane as Murrell's looking to go around Kemp again, and nope, no room that time. He, one of the ASR's best defenders is putting on a bit of a defensive clinic here, just keeping the much faster Northern Territorian at bay for a little bit longer.
Damon went around turn 8 then and whacked the rear quarter panel really weirdly, and the car really lurched on.
Tell you what though, he's been slowly, I guess, sort of going backwards and forwards when it comes to being on the tail of Brandon Dostal. So he's not sort of out of the equation for a 3rd place finish here. And remember, we've been talking about what Brandon's sort of been doing over the course of the year. And smart money, if he gets a bit too close, would be just to let him go. He doesn't need to do anything silly at this point.
Yeah, by far and away what I've seen tonight has been Dostal's smartest drive. He's just circulating. He's keeping a gap between the cars around him. And we saw early on letting really some smart moves to make sure he's cast straight by the end of it. So yeah, proud of him.
Absolutely. So we will wait and see how all this sort of unfolds in the next few laps or so. If he can put his head down and just catch up to the back of Dostal, there might still yet be something to come up with for a possible run at a podium finish. I look at Damon. He's just outside the top 10 when we started the night on 1,500 points. So with Palfrey out of this one, that potentially vaults him into a top 10 finish for the season. And if he can grab another podium, it'll be his 3rd of the year.
Yeah, and that would be a bag of points, nearly 20% of,
actually, sorry,
15% of his points in.
It would be his it'd be his 2nd appearance at the podium this year. I do apologise. He's only had the 1 appearance on the podium, which was the win at Hidden Valley.
Yes.
Maybe yes. Oh, the Barbagello one still haunts me from him from the Supercars thing. He was very unlucky there. Tell you what though, this little pack's a bit of an interesting one because Rhodey is the leader in Super 3. He's got a couple of cars between himself and Matt Cecil. So for Rhodey, this is good in terms of points. This is solidifying him for 2nd in the Super 3 Championship.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting to see Darren back there. He's got a lot more pace in him, but he's been struggling with Adelaide all week.
Yeah, he's quite content to sit there at the moment. Angus Brown, the one starting to apply the pressure onto Rhodey. Yep. Whoops, there we go. That's what happens. You apply the pressure, you make the mistake, and it opens the door and through in a flash. On board at the perfect time with Rhodey pinching the brake into turn number 6. As I said, not the first person that's done that tonight, and probably won't be the last with the better part of 12 laps remaining. Doesn't feel like there's 12 laps remaining.
No, it's been a really fast-paced race. Rhodey's going back on Angus now.
Tell you what, good on Rhodey. Well done for that one. He's definitely making Angus earn that, but I think this has probably been one of the circuits that... we're a bit close there. I think it's probably been one of the circuits that Rhodey sort of typically enjoys racing at, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. I'm actually just double-checking on something here, because Rhodey's dropped down to a lap down. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not. I think maybe there might be a little bit of timing glitch.
Yeah, we noticed that last night. There's a little bit of weirdness around turn 11 for some reason.
Yeah, so...
sorts itself out.
Yeah, so we'll wait and see what happens if timing actually corrects itself in that situation. Back to the leaders. I tell you what, you were absolutely spot on when you said that Ryan sort of comes alive after the pit stops. It's almost like he ratchets it up another notch, because here we go.
Yeah, it's almost like he knows the car that's under him there, from after the pit stops and just drive the absolute.
Into turn 13, down to the final corner. So this is the conclusion of lap 28. So still another 11 to go here, and as tight as it's ever going to be out in front between these two. Fastest lap of the race for Smith, inches close to a 19 in race trim.
Interestingly enough, there's been a few opportunities for Smith, but he hasn't taken them. I think he's waiting for Brooke to make a mistake, which I don't think is going to happen. He's going to have to make that move.
No, I don't think he will either. I'm just having a look now a bit further down the order at this little battle that's still going on here. So Knight has finally managed to clear Steve Warwick, and now Kai Jones is doing the same down in turn 4. So Warwick's stalwart of defence has unfortunately, or his barriers have been breached, and the two Mustangs have gone through in the last couple of laps. So it puts him down to 8th, a little bit sharpish at the back end there, going into turn number 7.
This is going to end up catching up to Hall, who's pretty much been by himself the whole race. That's probably the most amount of pressure he's had all race so far.
Yeah, he's about to get reeled in very quickly here by the next place car in Ethan Knight. So it's Knight seems to have come alive after that safety car. That really must have fallen at a very good time for him. He just hasn't been able to clear the traffic as quickly as he probably would have liked to really, sort of threaten the podium. I'm going to have to do the math in a little bit here and just see where everything sort of shakes out. So just penciling in a Luke Speck win, a Ryan Smith second, a Dostal third, and an Ethan Knight potentially, I'm going to say 5th at this point, because potentially if he can catch up to Ben, that would probably be the best place result for him. That would actually mean that Ethan falls short by about 18 points against Ryan. He actually needs, and believe it or not, if he gets up to 4th by some miracle, it'll actually be a tie, and it'll go to a count back, which is going to be settled in favour of Ryan, because he's got 5 race wins for the year compared to Ethan's 2. So that would be the tiebreaker. So Ethan must finish on the podium if Smith finishes second. That's the plain and simple math.
Yeah, and Ethan's going to struggle if he keeps hitting the walls like he has this lap so far.
Well, I tell you what, he's just been passed by Kai Jones as well. So this is now going south for the 77.
I'll also note Cracker's had a DNF. I wonder if that's just frustration with the right cuts he was getting. Yeah,
I think so too. Like he'd missed a couple, but he hadn't been disqualified, so he'd served all the penalties. But maybe something else has unfortunately become a bit of an issue for the native South Australian. Luke Speck himself actually a South Australian as well, leading the race too. So there's a couple of South Aussies in the field tonight. The leaders are about to come up to a little bit of lap traffic.
Saying Ben was in a bit of pressure, but he's actually got about a 3-second gap now with Kai behind him.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at his lap time actually. His last time around was at 21.6. Kai was at 20.9. So yes, he was 7/10 of a second quicker, but Kai also had to pass Ethan on that previous lap as well. So I really want to see what happens in the clear air here. If Jones can really drag not only himself, but drag Ethan along with him up to the back of the Luke McHugh, the CRE DevOps. I keep saying Luke McHugh, the CRE DevOps number 22 that's just up the road. Green's applying the blowtorch to the back of Steve Warwick now. So this is I think round 3 or 4 of this exchange since the safety car went back in. And
yeah, so Steve sort of gets some pace and then he loses some pace and gets some pace and loses some pace. It's keeping this train alive.
Yeah, it's just just his momentum, I think, is the sort of the hard part for him. The Ben Hall's unfortunately in a bit of hurt here now, because Kai is all over him, and that was a 22.3 for Hall and a 20.7 for Jones. So This is Jones has got a good turn of speed, and Hall goes down. And Hall goes down the escape road. So that's going to that gives 5th to Jones. It gives 6th to Knight. It'll give 7th to Green because Warwick's in the fence.
No, I think he's blown an engine.
Oh, possibly, and yes, over and done with. So that is another one out of business. So let's just have a bit of a look here. We might go on board and just have a bit of a listen here. And did he get one too many on the down change? Yeah, I think he did. Oh dear, what a shame.
That sucks.
What a shame.
All too easy to do. The gear ratio around here just doesn't feel quite right. You're always revving a little harder than you think you need to. So yeah, I'm surprised that's actually the first engine.
Yeah, well, that's the hard part, I think, about racing here at Adelaide, because of course the gear ratio is quite short, because you'll get to parts going through the staircase and you'll be pushing the rev limiter. So where, not so much where these guys are at the moment, but coming up through turn 4, onto turn 5 and onto turn 6 and onto turn 7, you're tempted to go up a gear, but it's a waste of time to then go up a gear only to come back down a gear. So you just push it to the rev limit, and it's rather interesting. There's getting some more reports. There's more engines that are failing as well. So it looks like Rutledge and Hall, unfortunately, are out as well. So all 3 drivers with engine failures coming up to this part of the course here. So completely unexpected. So a few drivers maybe pushing the limits of the engines just a little bit too much.
Actually, I'd like to see the heat of the engines. I know the cars get very hot around here. I wonder if it's not that the engines are blowing, they're just overheating.
Maybe following a little bit too closely. But I mean, in the case of Steve Warwick, he had clear air in front of him, so it shouldn't have been such a big concern. But that does change the dynamic a little bit in terms of who sits where. Roadie actually a little bit wide at one of the other corners while we're watching this little choo-choo train of cars here with Loughnane at the tail end. Darren Kemp's actually found himself in 8th place as a result of all of these little spate of engine failures. So Rutledge, Warwick, Ben Hall, all out. Angus Wells is a couple of laps down, so he'll get his laps back by the time he passes all of these cars, and he'll be sort of back up to 17th at the end of the day. There's a lot of cars going around the final corner here. What a strange sequence of events, with 3 cars sort of all failing engines in a couple of minutes of each other.
Yeah, and noticed also Darren, after all the work he did get up to 8th, he fell back to 11th.
Yeah, he's gone back up to 10th now because he's gone ahead of Murrell, who's threatening down here at turn number I think. Oh, Murrell made a mistake and almost went into the runoff area, so that sort of nullifies that little battle.
I can't believe there's only 5 laps left.
Yeah, very, very close. And, well, the gap out in front, still pretty much as it is. Is Ryan just stalking Luke here? What do you think? Because we saw this at Topor a couple of weeks ago, where the last lap pass was the winning pass on every occasion for all 3 of the race wins, and we ended up with 3 different winners on the night. Is Ryan trying to pull that stunt again? The question is, if he is, where's he pull it?
Look, Ryan's just waiting for a small error from Luke. Luke is superb under brakes, which makes it really hard to get past him. So he's just waiting sort of, as you said, the Jaws music's on in Luke's cabin, and just waiting for that sort of mistake to happen. That will open the door for him.
Yeah, I think so too. So it's a little bit of a waiting game here, though. They've both got the fence there going through turn 8, so this will start to ramp the pressure up a little bit. We'll keep an eye on these 2, and we'll just see where everybody else sits in the field. So about 9 seconds back is the championship leader, and he sits in 3rd. David McDonald in 4th. Now, he's not making huge inroads. He's pretty much matching Dostal's times at the moment. He's about 3 or 4 seconds in arrears, so he's not making any huge gains on the podium at the moment. Then you got Kai Jones, who's in 5th, and he's charging. So he's still doing 1 minute 20s or high 1 minute 20s. So he could potentially catch McDonald before the end of this one and get himself back up to 4th, which would be a pretty respectable recovery. Ethan Knight is 6th. Now, this is probably the best I think that he's going to do, barring a disaster for Ryan Smith. His championship finishing position is going to be 4th as it sits right now. Just got to remember too, the drop rounds are already sort of being calculated. They will be recalculated again after tonight's over, but at this stage, this is by far a lot better than his worst round that's on the books. Anthony Green, he's there in 7th. There he goes through the front of the shot there. So he's some 20 seconds off the lead. You go back to Darren Kemp, who's moved himself up to 8th with all of the drivers that have found themselves having to come into the pits or blowing engines. Angus Brown right behind him in 9th, and then Lachlan in 10th. So there's only 2 real close battles on track. It's this little group of cars which Brown's now just looking to try and make this move on Kemp. Might just stay with this for a few seconds and see how this sort of goes. Kemp a bit wide there. There you go. Opens the door, and Brown goes through to 8th. And Lognan might stick his nose up here too. Oh, that's very close as well. That was almost Brody Kostecki-esque up the inside there on Will Brown last weekend. But unfortunately, or fortunately in this case, no contact with the outside fence. So that gets those 3 cars through, and Lognan gives the wall a rub for good measure. And he's in 10th. Well, Murrell gave it a fairly decent whack as well, going through turn 8 there as well. So he's 11th. Matt Cecil actually is your leader in Super 3. I'm not sure what's happening with the timing, whether that's actually legitimate for Rhodey being a lap down or not. Only time will sort of tell with that. We'll have to wait and see how that shakes out. I haven't got any direct messages or things happening here to show that he's out of sequence.
Pits or anything?
No. Steele Allison 13th, Kiddis 14th. We'll just run through the last couple of cars in the order. And then Rhodey, Kerrison in 15th has just gone through the shot. Rhodey's 16th, even though he's ahead of Matt Cecil. And then Angus Wells is the last car, classified at the moment on 17th. He's actually 3 laps down. Rhodey, Kerrison, Kiddis and Steele Allison all 1 lap down. As we go back to the head of the field here. 2 more laps to go.
Coming up.
The penultimate lap about to start.
Luke's been doing a lot of early diving into the corner, sort of protecting the corner recently. It's sort of hurting his exits, but there's not enough of a straight to Ryan to capitalise.
At the moment, they're both being very cautious through turn number 1, 2 and 3 as well. There's a little bit of lap traffic up the road as well that they're going to need to contend with, just trying to keep an eye on who it actually might be as they go up through the staircase. I have a funny feeling it might be the car of Matt Cecil and Rhodey. Yes, it is. Rhodey, Matt Cecil just a few seconds up the road. So they might be caught in the next few minutes or so.
It'll be very awkward if Rhodey still feels like this is the right position. It'll be very awkward.
Yeah, that's true. I think Rhodey's actually, I thought he dropped behind Matt for a moment there, but he hadn't. Right. Down to turn 9. No room this time for Ryan. Is it next time around? Lights are flashing. Get out of the way, says the race leader, because we're coming through. This is for the battle here. Cecil does the right thing. He pulls over, lets them go through. Where does Rhodey do the same? This is the critical juncture for him. Where can he do it? He'll have to do it on the front straight. Protecting to the inside here. Late defensive move for Specky. Angled it for the corner. Rhodey's gone out wide on the grass. That'll actually let Cecil go back through in front of Rhodey. The last lap has now officially commenced. Off we go. 3.2 kilometres of racing left in the season for the development series. He's closed an awful lot up as they head down to turn number 4, and Spec protects the inside like his life depends on it.
It's fantastic racing so far. Unfortunately, that last corner looked like Luke didn't quite know what Rhodey was doing, and
oh, late switch up the inside goes the 60. He pulls the trigger at an unexpected time here. They're going to have to run through 7 side by side, and Smith will come out with just a little bit of a disadvantage there. Does he fold in behind? He does. Yes. He plays the smart card here. There's probably 2 more opportunities, or 3 more opportunities, I'd say, left to go. The next one's turn 9, sliding it on the exit. Smith's got to come to the inside, but Spec's got to protect it. And here comes the 60 down the inside. Rhodey's in the fence. We don't care about that. We care about what's going on between the leaders. And They're going to go argue the point up to turn number 11 now. And Speck just manages to hold on to it after an exchange, but there's one more corner coming up. He's got to protect 14.
All I'm thinking is Whincup and McLaughlin.
This is getting a bit close, and Smith sort of had to shore up on the inside here. What are the stewards going to say about this one? It's a drag to the line. Smith's got his nose in front, and he's been adjudged the winner.
Joking.
He's been adjudged the winner, and I'd hate to go back and have to see that one again and just have a look at that. But your champion for season 2024 is Brandon Dostal. He comes across the line to finish in third, and that's enough that he needed to do to win that title. I told you at the start of the program, I was sort of said you've got to go with the hot hand that feeds you when it comes to all things in the supercars and in the development series. And Smith was the hot hand coming into the night, and he pinches another win. He takes the treble. All three of the 125 kilometre races this year he won, and they all came in the last half of the season.
That's got to be the closest finish we've ever had for a dev race.
Probably very, very close. It's 0.026 of a second. That will probably, look, at the end of the day, a couple of the moves, the defensive moves, might have been slightly borderline, but I think the right winner at the end of the day was probably adjudged, and the stewards will probably leave that as is. Fourth place to Damon McDonald. So good result for him. Kai Jones fifth, couldn't quite get there in the end. Ethan Knight sixth. So unfortunately for Ethan, he'll have to settle for fourth in the championship this year with it all being said and done. Green seventh, Angus Brown eighth, Darren Lognan ninth, and Kemp actually faded to finish 10th in that one there. Scott Murrell was 11th. Matt Cecil, your Super 3 winner, will be adjudged to be the race winner and the champion in Super 3, with Kiddis 13th, and then Steele Allison 14th, followed by Kerrison, Rhodey, and Angus Wells. So they were all the drivers that completed. And there's a bit of a logjam going on here. I think the guys want to try and do a few burnouts, but they are holding up the traffic, or Dostal especially holding up the traffic there. But they're
all sort of getting caught up in each other. It's we normally don't like people contacting each other after race, but I think they're all in the same chat, formulating this themselves. Dostal coming around to the front straight as the Super 2 champion for this year.
So your race winner and your champion on the front straight there, and I guess rightfully so, Matt Cecil's entitled to do a couple of them as well, because he is, of course, the Super 3 champion. So there is a bit going on here that will leave the teams to digest. A bit of a surprise, Luke Speck's actually gone back to the garage, so from his point of view, I think he knows he probably did as much as he could possibly do tonight to try and wrestle what was an insurmountable task away from the champion. The other champion there at the back of the shot there, lighting it up there in the Napa Motorsport Academy machine. So some champions that definitely had their, in Dostal's case, he had his work cut out for him in the middle part of the season when Speck took over the title running, and just had to keep it in there and hope for the best, and that's exactly what happened. And he's now got a Super 2 title to his name.
Yep, he did that conservative drive which we wanted him to do at the start of the night, and yeah, it's paid off for him, and well deserved. Some mega pace out of him all year.
Yeah, absolutely. We are waiting on a few drivers to pop up here and have a little bit of a chat and see what everybody's got to say, because of course it is the end of the season, and we have got to grab, as is customary, everybody that finished in the top three. So fittingly, the drivers that finished top three in both classes tonight actually were the top three in the respective championships.
Worked out quite well.
So it worked out quite well. They didn't necessarily finish in that order, but they did finish in such a way that they needed to that they needed to finish those championships off. So let's we'll wait for everybody sort of just to make their way up and have a little bit of a discussion. But just your top three in Super 3, if we go over to our point standings for the driver standings for Super 3, that is the top three as it stands there. So they're not the final point standings, but that's where they indeed finished. So Matt Cecil, Rhodey and Adam Kerrison, they are your top three. By virtue of Glenn Miles and Cracker actually not finishing those two races, they actually stayed where they were in fourth and fifth place. So that's a little bit of a side note statistic there. So that's how everything finished in Super 3. And if we go over to Super 2 and we go back to our top 10 drivers there, the top three have a little bit of a different look because Ryan Smith has jumped over Ethan Knight and finishes in third place, not just for the year, but he also won the race tonight as well. So that's where your top three are coming from. And I'm pleased to say, Will, that we have actually got most of the drivers that are starting to make their way over here. I'm not sure where you would probably like to start with this one. Do we start with the race winners? Do we start with the champions? Where do we start?
I'd like to talk to Kerrison first.
All right, so we will grab. Unfortunately, I'm not sure if we actually have a. We might have a car picture, I think, for him for the 134 for this one. But if not, it is what it is, and I don't think we do. So we'll actually pop up the season car that he actually started from this year. So he finished third in the Super 3 Championship this year. So let's grab him. What are you going to ask him, Will?
Well, how do you feel the season went for you? We saw some fantastic results towards the end of the season. How are you feeling the year went for you, and what's the plans for next year?
Yeah, cheers. Pretty happy with the about 3/4 of the way through the season. I thought, oh well, I want to. I'm very slim chance to get roadie. Cecil was out and gone, but I would have been happy with third coming back for the first time in a couple of years. So yeah, the last few rounds were just sort of consolidation, and if what happened happened, I'll forget about tonight. Tonight was just a write off for me. But yeah, again, I just thought I just wanted to finish. But all in all, pretty happy. Like, yeah, happy with the way it went. Like, some good racing throughout the year and that. And yeah, so I'll definitely be back next year. Hopefully, a little bit bigger and a bit better. So yeah, just a
It's
bit
awesome.
bummed about tonight. That's all. So
No, it's awesome to hear, and yes, not great to finish the season on a low, but I think the season on a whole for you was fantastic. So well done.
cheers. Yeah, nah, cool. My will's apparently got a mention, so I'm happy with that. So I'll take that out of it. So easy. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Move over to Rhodey. Rhodey, tonight, there was some fantastic driving from you, and we saw some sort of weird timing thing. Can you talk us through it?
Yeah, so it would have just been whether the safety car came out that it went to pick up Tony, who was like I think a lap ahead than the rest of us, just because I think we all dived in and he didn't, or whatever it was, and then the game had said, yeah, look, I haven't had a chance to tell Matt to pass the train, but I hadn't had a chance to tell the rest of us to pass the train, and so everyone else was a lap down and hadn't had their lap recredited. They were penalised. I think I got penalised. I think I got penalised for a few things. At one point, it was penalising me for accelerating too early or doing something to that effect, which of course I was because I was nowhere near the train when the safety car got back to the start-finish line. But because it had been telling me to follow the safety car, it expected me to be right in that train. So that's probably why I got very confused. But no, as I said to Matt in the chat, that was two sumo wrestlers blind drunk on sake is what that fight was. Look, considering how my practice night went last night, I was lapping 39 laps nearly by myself. So I'll take tonight over last night. But look, good way to end the season. I kind of wish that was the way that the championship had gone. And look, to be fair, if I'd made the most of my missed opportunities, it could have been. But I think even then, Matt was pretty well comfortably in hand to take the title this year, and as it turns out, he had just enough at the end of that race to take the win as well. I didn't. I actually ultimately didn't take the win because I lost track of where we were laps times, and I had it in my head the entire run down. Right, I'm a lap down on the leaders, and then the leaders passed me the last lap to go, and I fully had it in my head. Right, yep, we know we got the strength at turn 8. We can just slingshot back through when no finish line came up first. So a little bit peeved with that, but look, for the amount of ways that I've let down people and let down the team this year, look, to finish out the season like that and to finish the season with the results we got, I'll take it. And we'll be back for 2025 and we'll just see what happens there.
Thank you, Rody. I'll move on to Matt Cecil. We had some fantastic racing this year, and in real life, we've seen some. You're taking out some really good racing in real life. Are you finding the sim and the real life are sort of overlapping this year?
In some places they are, but this year is more. The sim racing is just about having fun, honestly, and just going by each round and seeing where I end up. Sort of winging it.
And what are your plans for next year?
Oh, I'll probably come back and do Super 2. Just it's dependent on time, but I think I've enjoyed this season enough to come back and see where we end up. But yeah, I have to think about it in the off season. But pretty certain I'll be back.
Definitely look forward to it.
Well, that's been
I'll
our
move
group of the top 3 in Super 3. Will, we're going to go the same direction with the Super 2 runners. Again, they were the top 3 in the championship, were the top 3, not necessarily in that order, on the track tonight.
Yes, let's do that.
All right, starting with?
Um,
Start with Ryan Smith, I guess, the man who won the night tonight, albeit in interesting circumstances at the final corner, but he did finish 3rd overall in the championship this year.
Yeah, Ryan, talk us through your night and the year in general. You had a mega run to the flag, you could say, for the second half of the season. But yeah, talk us through your mindset for tonight and how you thought your season went.
Oh, tonight it was just kind of coming into it. Not a lot of practice before tonight. Probably like 20 laps total before official practice started. So I was coming into it expecting maybe a top 5. But yeah, taking out pole or taking qualifying, then the shootout, then the battle with Specky throughout the race, which was very fun. Obviously, it was stronger in different parts throughout the lap. And it was probably one of the hardest fought races I've had all year, especially to go out and win. With how strong Specky was tonight, yeah, wasn't expecting that.
And we've noticed in the last few races, it seems to be after the pit stop is when you switch on. Do you have any feeling of why that might be?
Honestly, I don't know what it is, but it was kind of the same in Albert Park, the longer race with the pit stop. I switched on during that race. I think, what was it? Sydney as well. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like into a second stint, something switches, and I don't know what it is, but happy to have it.
Definitely. And looking into next year, are you looking to get a better livery painter?
I might do a throwback to this one just for all the people watching the broadcast, just so that they can have their eyes graced with such beauty.
We definitely appreciate that. But yes, thank you for the driving this year, and well done for the second half of the season and for tonight. Fantastic driving.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without the boys at SES, honestly.
Moving over to Luke. Luke, talk us through your night.
Yeah, consistently doing 20s and Ryan breathing down my neck 90% of the night. But, good fun. And yeah, he got me on the last corner there, so a little bit hurt, but that's all right.
Now, you finished a solid second in the championship. What are your how do you feel the season went, and what are your plans for next year?
The second was better than what I had in mind. I thought between 5 to 10th would be where I'd end up, but yeah, I'll take second. But hopefully be back next year for Dev, maybe, please. But yeah, main game next year and have a real crack at that would probably be the way I would go. But yeah, should be back for more fun.
It's awesome to hear, and well done for your second place tonight and second in the championship. Well done.
Cheers, thank you.
And moving over to our Development Series champion for 2024, Brandon Dostal. Congratulations. How does it feel?
Yeah, it feels pretty good. Just wanted to say thanks to everyone that was there along the way. The SES guys, Higo being an awesome spotter, Ethan, awesome teammate, helping to get to the teams championship. Yeah, it feels pretty good to get it over with. I was definitely want to get it over with 5 laps before the end of the race. It was very stressful.
Yeah, Steve and I noticed this race, contrary to your normal driving style, you had to be very conservative. How did that feel tonight?
Yeah, I was just driving very conservative, trying to just minimize mistakes, try and keep same position I was, make sure I didn't put in a wall or anything, damage the car. But yeah, I was just polling about, buddy. Really taking it easy in the T1 because I've had some fun there. Being that I've reversed it into a wall a few corners ahead from there. But yeah, it's pretty stressful.
And as is customary, the Development Series winner generally moves on to main game. Is that your plans for next year, and what are you thinking for next year?
Definitely looking forward to that, running alongside Ethan Knight in a Mustang, more than likely. Going to try, for teams. Not going to guarantee it like Dane did last year, but going to try for it and see what happens. Definitely looking forward to next year.
We look forward to seeing you back, and as I said before, fantastic driving this year, and fantastic to see you get that championship you were working for. Well done.
Yeah, cheers. It's great to great to get LMR another one. Yeah, it's great. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, I echo Will's sentiments there to Brandon as well. Big congratulations on behalf of ASR for the new Development Series champion. Big congratulations to the top three in both categories this year. The season has come to a conclusion for the 2024 ASR Development Series. A couple of things, I guess, to get out there in the open. Firstly, the second half of the year has been a little bit of an interesting time because, of course, halfway through the year, the broadcast did change from one channel to another channel. So I would like to, for the second half of the year, personally thank Will and, of course, the other two that managed to step in and do some commentary as well. So Lockie Lock and Daniel Cox. They've been great, having a couple of different drivers along the way to fill in. So a big thank you from me to all three of you. And of course, a big thank you to the person who pioneered this series to begin with, was taking over most of the broadcasting, and through unfortunate circumstances did end up walking away from ASR earlier than planned, and that's to Lewis Wedding. So thank you to Lewis for all his hard effort on getting the series running year on year on year. A little bit sad that it ended the way that it did, but that's unfortunately sometimes how things go in real life. So big thank you to that. Big thank you to Rhodey for putting together all the livery packs and things for the second half of the year, and for Nathan Higginson for the work he's put in to sort out some of the tracks that came about for this year. Some of that content, of course, is going to be used next year, and there'll be a few things, no doubt, that'll make a reappearance. As to what 2025 looks like, that's still up for debate. In terms of the number of rounds and what days they fall on and things like that, the makeup of how Super 2, Super 3 looks, who goes up, who goes down, who moves on to supercars and things like that. All that is yet to be decided. Yes, I would like to say that there have been some open and frank discussions about what potentially happens next year, considering some of the things that did happen in 2024. But none of it is set in stone just yet. And I've heard people talking about Super 2 and Super 3 being split or running on separate nights or things like that, or, that There's not going to be any wild carding or any of those sorts of things at the moment. That's all just hearsay. Nothing has been officially determined, and we'll advise that in due course in probably the next couple of months. It'll be early enough so people can know what they're doing, but and it'll be at a suitable time for ASR. The one thing that I do want to make very clear to everybody is that next year there is unfortunately no guarantee that the development series will continue to be broadcasted. As you can imagine, I want to be perfectly honest with people. With a full-time job, having to travel for work, I've somehow managed to make this work for the second half of the year. Thankfully, without having to rearrange the calendar. I've been very grateful that I've been able to make that work. I cannot guarantee the same thing for next year. So depending on what happens, we may not end up with a development series broadcast next year. The series will still go on. There might be an alternate broadcast, or there might be highlights package, or there might be a broadcast, there might be nothing at all. So we'll just have to wait and see how that plays out. But I wanted to prepare everybody that tunes in, because I see there's been a fair few of you tonight, and I do thank you for your continued support of ASR and the live streams. But just to be mindful that there may not be one of these next year. And that's all there is to talk about until next Friday, when we bring the curtain down on the 2024 ASR Supercars Championship and go through the same processes. Crown a champion, decide who stands on the podium, and see who is king of the streets of Adelaide. So until then, everybody, thank you very much for watching this year. It's been a pleasure having you on board on Outworld Broadcasting as usual. And as always, drive safely and good night.